Got it.
Okay, so I think we are getting live streamed. Okay.
Yeah, I think we can begin.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Digital Fifth Executive Training Program, the Capstone project presentation. This amazing learning experience that we started 2.5 months with the professionals from across the stream, banks, insurance, the fintechs, and all these things coming together and going through along with us in the executive training program in the fintech open banking with a specialization in digital banking entrepreneurship, as well as AIML and financial blockchain. This is that where that groups has come out with and making in a capstone project presentation, and this primarily into the KYCs, the fintech drivers in the respective countries. So without taking much of the time, I'll call up each of the respective group, which will start talking about themselves, their learning experience about that region, and talking about guiding us through the critical components of that region into driving their fintech and the digital transformation in that respective country. So guys, I hope all of you are ready, and I'll start with the group 4. Group 4, as soon as the team is ready, please put up your presentation. I'll go and stop sharing.
Group 4, this is Bhavik here, Bhavik Parik. Hope you can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, so I'm just going to share. So I think it says host disabled. Can I get the permission to share my screen?
Yes, one second.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
Yeah, okay.
I request all the members who are there to share the screen. Yeah.
Yeah, can you all see my screen?
Yeah, Bhavik. And can you just put up in the slideshow?
Yeah, you can go. Yeah, if you go to the agenda.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's perfect. So we'll start, Shashank?
Yeah.
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. So I'll start off. So firstly, thanks everyone for giving us this opportunity and time. And it's a great learning experience for all of us in terms of putting this piece for the Brazil fintech ecosystem. So we have 6 team members from our side. So myself, Vaibhav, Bhavik, Neeta, Nikhil, and Pulkit. And if you go to the agenda slide, Bhavik. Yeah. So what we'll cover in those 35 to 40 minutes is on some 6 or 7 very key areas of Brazil fintech ecosystem. So I'll cover on the Brazil landscape, the key drivers of the economy. Then Weber will cover on the government regulations. And then 2 important areas, lending and payments, will be covered by Bhavik. Then wealth tech, insure tech by Neeta. And then we'll cover the fintech ecosystem overall in terms of what's happening and what are the key players by Nikhil. And then the investments and the VC portfolio, Pulkit will cover. So I think we'll start off with the first part, which I will deliver.
Yeah, and just a disclaimer that, sorry, there's just a disclaimer
please.
that this is all based on secondary research.
Right.
Okay, so that is very important. Thank you.
Yes. Thanks, Lisa, for pointing it out. Just to give you a landscape, so Brazil, whenever we hear about Brazil, the first thing which comes to our mind is beaches and football and lots of other things. But I think there are very interesting points from a Brazil landscape perspective from a fintech area. And if you look at Brazil overall, it's the 5th largest country in the world and the 7th most populous. And in terms of the economy, it's considered overall in the top 10 segment. And if you look at the number of very interesting fact is that it's considered 7th largest with the number of billionaires it has in the world. And from a global entrepreneurship index perspective, 1 out of 4 Brazilians is an entrepreneur. It's a very heartening to see that the entrepreneurship is growing so much rapidly in Brazil. And if you look at the GDP of Brazil, the key part or the key contribution is from the services sector. And the services sector actually gives around 63% of the overall economy of Brazil. And agriculture and some of the other areas are also quite prominent, but services is key. And in the services sector, financial services is considered to be one of the prime for Brazil. And uh, I think there are various areas or avenues being opened on the financial services side as well. If you look at the overall Brazil's economy, it's been for past couple of years, it's not been growing that great. It's been into recession and all. But there have been some good times and bad times for Brazil. If you look at the maybe last couple of years, it's grown around 3 to 4%. But if you look at because of certain things which happened, the pandemic and some of the other points, we are looking at around 1% or less than 1% growth in the next couple of years in Brazil. And the overall population of Brazil is close to 250 million. And around 45% or 43 to 45% of this population belongs to the labor class, which is a key important area for Brazil. If you can move to the next slide, please. Yeah, so from an overall Brazil economy perspective, the financial services sector, there were five, actually in 2010, there were five key prominent banks which were operating in Brazil, and they had captured most of the market from a banking standpoint. And to say the least, they were not offering the best of the services to their customers. And it was kind of a monopoly for them. But if you look at 10 years down the line or 10 to 12 years down the line, which is 2020 to 23, there are now some 1,500 plus fintechs which have grown in Brazil. And if you look at the banked or the unbanked population, so it increased from around 57% to 86% over these 10-year period. And they have added around 75 million plus customers in the bank region. So fintech has actually given a very prominent name to Brazil in the overall ecosystem. And two very important areas or classes which I can say contributed to this is one is on the lower classes, which I mentioned is around 40 to 45% of the overall Brazil population. And these people were not getting the kind of banking services or the kind of financial services which they should have got. So what happened is that there were lots of fintechs which came up in terms of making it very easy for these lower class to come into the financial stream, giving them new innovative ways to deal with banks or do lending or do payments and some of these areas. So one was the lower class and second one is the young Brazilian. So the internet population or the penetration in Brazil is around 77 to 80%. And the youngsters in Brazil are very, very keen. They actually use 3 to 4 banking products. And these are related to payments, to lending, to credit cards, and some of these areas. And these two lower classes and the young Brazilians actually are very important from a fintech perspective for Brazil. Yeah, if you can move to the next slide, please. And if you look at the overall regulatory initiatives and how the fintech sector has changed, there are some 5-6 key players in this part. The BCB, which is the Brazilian Central Bank. I think more details will be covered by one of my colleagues, but I'll just give an overview. The CMN, which is the financial services regulator, similar to RBI. Then SUSEP, which is the insurance regulator, like we have IRDA in India. And then CVM, which is more like SEBI, the Securities Commission. And one very, very interesting area which BCB developed was PIX. So PIX is an instant money transfer or a payment kind of service similar to UPI. And people can actually transfer money. It's a P2P transfer or a P2M as well. And this is available 24/7 for the Brazilians. And actually it started in during the COVID times around 2020. And this has fundamentally changed the entire landscape for Brazil in the payment ecosystem. Then on the open banking side, sharing data, doing API-based banking. That is another area which the Brazilians are, or the regulators have taken up. And then they have developed some regulatory sandboxes for innovation. So all the insurance regulator, the financial services regulator, they've teamed up with various new innovative fintechs in the areas, newer areas like blockchain and a couple of other areas. And they are trying to do a regulatory sandbox. And then once they come up with these ideas, then they take it up to the market. And CBDC is another very interesting area where Brazil is working on, and they plan to do something in next couple of years. Actually, they have a vision to go live in 2024. So along with India, maybe Brazil and some of the other countries now will look at a central bank digital currency. Yeah, if you can move to the next slide. Yeah, this is again a very interesting area in terms of the fintech segment. So predominantly there are 6 areas or 6 fintech segments which are predominant in Brazil. So if you look at payments and remittances, that scores the highest, around 1/4, 35%. Then you have enterprise financial management, lending, personal financial management, and some of the newer areas like the trading and capital markets, digital banks, and or some of the other areas. And the VC investments have also grown significantly over the years. There was some dip in 2021, but I think 2022 was again a bigger area. And if you look at these players, all these are unicorns which we have listed here. So starting from New Bank to Stone Company to Quinto and then C6 Bank and Bitso. All these are unicorns, and New Bank predominantly is going very steady in Brazil as well as other countries. It's mainly on the payment side, on the credit card side, and I think some of the details about these fintechs will discover during the discussion with some of my other teammates. And now I think I'll hand it over to my next colleague to give some details on the regulator and some more details about it. Yeah.
Yes. Hello. Hi. Good afternoon, everyone. I'll just continue with the regulations. There in Brazil there are regulators just like India. For example, Brazil Central Bank. Am I audible? Yes. Okay. Then another one is National Monetary Council. Third one regarding the insurance is the just I'm not. SUSEP is the insurance regulator, and CVM that is just like a it controls the securities, and the last one is the SFN, National Financial System. There are in last year in Brazil there are open banking implementations are there, so and they have done it in four consecutive phases. First phase, the open data involving the and sharing the regulated institutions data on their assets, channels, and traditional banking services offered or distributed. That means account and credit card and credit operations related data and data was shared in first phase. And in second phase, the customer register and the transactional data concerning the same transactional traditional banking services covered which were covered in phase 1, it was shared in the second one. In third phase, launching on in third phase, service sharing including payment initiatives and forwarding of credit operations proposals. And in fourth phase, launch open banking including non-transactional banking services like insurance, open pension funds, investments, and foreign exchanges were taken place. Bhavi, can you please go to the next slide? There is a segmentation of the total financial institutions or NBFCs in Brazil. By mistake, it's S1. Please read it as S1. S1. That means there are some five segmentations in the institutions in Brazil. S1 is the banks or some financial institutions whose contribution to the GDP is more than 10% or equivalent to international activity. S2 are the financial institutions where their contribution in GDP is 1% to 10%. S3 are the financial institutions where their contribution to the GDP is 0.1% to 1%. S4 are the organizations where so S4 are the organizations where the contribution to the GDP is less than 1%, and S5 are the organizations where their contribution to exposure to GDP is less than 0.1%. This includes NBFCs also. Uh, yes, I would like to hand over the next session to my next colleague.
Yeah, thank you. Hi everyone, this is Bhavik here. So I'll be speaking on the payments and the lending landscape. On this slide, if you see what are the different types of services that are covered in the payments. So we are talking about the providers who provide solutions for payment processing, point of sale hardware, software, and payment gateways. It also includes companies which provide consumers and businesses with online mobile payment options, loyalty reward programs, and other card-based products, essentially covering transaction security and fraud protection. On the right-hand side, you see some of the big names in the payments landscape. The top half covers the providers which provide processing, acquiring, POS, and gateway services, and then the bottom half gives you a list of some of the providers who provide online mobile payments and top-ups. From a payments landscape perspective, the different types of payments which are prevalent in Brazil. At the top, we start with cash, which is still the most popular payment method in Brazil, as many Brazilians still receive paychecks in cash. But yeah, this is one area where government wants to reduce. When I say government, the regulator is trying to reduce the circulation of cash. And another reason why people prefer to use cash is because they want to avoid hefty interest rates and the minimum purchase prices and the taxes which are levied on the financial institutions which provide credit and debit cards. Very much like India, Brazil also has credit and debit cards, which is still very popular in Brazil, and it is very popular for purchases which exceed 50 Brazilian reals. As Visa and MasterCard are no longer exclusive, so people do prefer these card options, which are other alternatives for payment. In terms of the third option, prepaid cards are also widely used as an alternative method in Brazil, with almost 29% growth since 2012. And they are being used for use cases like standard gift cards and travel cards. Check is still very prevalent in Brazil, even though its use is still dropping. And then government wants to discourage the use of checks because of the issues around check bounces and the frauds. One unique thing about Brazil is this fifth payment option, which you see here, Boleto Bancário, which in English means a bank slip, which is still a very reasonably popular payment method used in Brazil, which accounts for almost 15% of the payments. And to simply understand it, it's more of a, when you go to a bank and you instead of cash, they give you a voucher, and then you can use that voucher for specific payments. So this is a very prevalent method to touch and take care of the unbanked customers from a Brazil payment ecosystem perspective. And the last option is you have direct debits, which is predominantly used for common purposes for paying larger bills through direct debit. So these are the typical payment modes used in Brazil. We'll move to the next slide. As one of my colleagues was mentioning about PIX, which is the instant payment method used in Brazil, very similar to UPI. From a history perspective, Brazil started its instant payments journey with an instant payment system called Citraf, but it was only available during banking hours, and that kind of put a limitation in terms of the volume and the growth that the regulator was expecting. So in 2020, Brazilian central bank came out with the instant payment system called Pix, which is very similar to UPI. It provides 24 hours per day, 7 days a week, and 365 days a year service. And currently, if you see in terms of the customers, 761 financial institutions have been onboarded onto Pix. And the top players who are already using Pix from a Brazil payments ecosystem, you would see Adyen, PayPal, Digital River, eBanks, and Stripe. And in terms of the sheer volume of the transactions, on the right-hand side, you see the projections towards the end of 2026, where almost between 50 and 60% of the transactions are going to be moving to real-time payments. So it's a huge opportunity from a Brazil ecosystem perspective, which is being tapped by the major providers. Just continuing on to the real-time instant payments journey, these are just some of the numbers, just to give you an idea of how big the ecosystem is and what are the opportunities in terms of the future growth potential. So on the left-hand side, if you see currently in 2021, 65% of the paper-based transactions are, paper-based payments are being used. But and then in terms of the real-time payments, it's only 5%. But as we move towards 2026, the projections are that this 5% will go to 34%, which is a big shift. So that is on the number of transactions. In terms of the spend also, if you see the instant payments, the percentage spend is 13.4% in terms of the US dollar spend. But that percentage is going to grow to 42% by 2026. On the right-hand side, if you see for businesses and customers, the net savings simulated by real time, correct, which is $5.7 billion, and that is going to grow to $37.9 billion. In terms of the GDP growth, currently from a 2021 standpoint, real-time payments are contributing to $5.5 billion, which translates to 0.34% of the GDP. But that is projected to grow to almost 2.08% of the GDP, which translates to $37 billion. And in terms of the real-time transactions, as of 2021, this was around 8.7 billion, and it is forecasted to grow to 82.4 billion with the annual growth rate of 56%. So that shows kind of a huge potential that real-time instant payments has in Brazil, and we can kind of correlate with the kind of success that we have seen in UPI from India perspective. I'll now move to the lending landscape. Again, the lending landscape includes providers who take care of real estate financing, online lenders, challenger banks who are providing the consumer services, and then you have a variety of personal financial and management solutions which are provided by these providers. The examples, if you see on the right-hand side, some of the prominent names like Creditas, Ideal Invest, Finance Zero. The big driver for the lending landscape to evolve in Brazil is the annual percentage rate, APRs, which are some of the highest in the world. If you see for a personal loan, Brazilian banks are charging 123%, for credit cards it's 276%, and for overdraft it's 325%. So this is a big driver for these new fintech providers in the lending landscape to come out with innovative solutions, and they can disrupt this existing market. So yeah, with that, I will end the payments and lending landscape, and then I'll ask my next teammate to step in. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll take over. Thank you so much. Before I move on to the insurance and wealth tech over here in Brazil, it's very interesting to know that Brazil demographics are very similar to India, and a majority of their population is tech savvy. They are a younger age group, which is basically between 25 to 40 years of age. And their internet penetration and smart home penetration is very high compared to India. And one of the things which struck me while I was doing the study was that they are willing to try out more and more on technology. So there are which is why Brazil comes out to be as one of the top few countries wherein the fintech adoption rate is very high, and I guess which is why this got shortlisted as a project for us too. So thank you. It's been very interesting. I'll move on to the reasons why basically the fintech is very popular in Brazil. There is a need because of the high population growth and high density of population and the younger population demographic. There is a need basically for the fintechs to basically serve the underbanked or underserved segments. There is a conducive regulatory environment, which is similar to RBI creating it for us. The Brazil government has created it for them. There is availability of capital and investment opportunities. Many people want to invest in Brazil, and there is a requirement which is there, which we need to fulfill. So because of these reasons, the wealth tech and the insurtech and the other fintechs which we see over here are being considered for Brazil. The government has also gone ahead and played a major role in the participation over here. It has started opening up the economy from 2003 onwards. I think the steps have been taken to create an environment which had been conducive. And it up to from 2003 onwards. Before 2000, I think 12, there were only 5 banks which were there in Brazil, and then the government opened it up for other fintechs and other banks to basically start operating over there. And new banks started in 2013, and that's how the whole history of fintech started in Brazil. They're far ahead of India in terms of open banking, in terms of sandbox, in terms of interoperability. And it's a good country to keep a watch on if we want to go ahead and see what's available over there and what's available in India. Coming back to what is on insurance and wealth tech. For the insurance one, Brazil is supposed to be the 17th largest insurance market in the world. It focuses on 3, which is basically life, health, and auto insurance. Insurers are usually seeking differentiation and innovation through processes and tools. The behavior shows that they are open for digital, and the main drivers, which is cost, payments, and policy features, are where insurtechs are chipping in. They have an open insurance policy, wherein basically they have a sandbox, a regulatory sandbox for insurance. The data, because of open insurance, is similar to open banking. Insurers and regulators can basically work together and share information similar to what happens in open banking. Something very, very different, which is over there in Brazil and which is not in India, is basically the pay-per-use insurance, which they talk about. So in the pay-per-use insurance is they have gone ahead and they have automated, they charge the customer as per the use. They look at the lifestyle of the customer, the analytics which are there, and charge the customer based on the behavior of the customer. So the customer behavior basically determines what is the premium which the person has to pay. This is one of the things which has been there. There are these fintechs which exist over here. So this is just a few examples. There are many fintechs over there, as we heard earlier. Tutos is one of them, and this is the one which basically charges premium in terms of customer behavior. So it is very different, not available in India as of now. So something which we can learn from. Could you please move to the next slide?
Just a sec, yeah.
Yeah, no worries.
It's not moving the way I had expected.
You may want to switch off your camera. The bandwidth may be low.
Yeah. 1 minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is just a snapshot of the Brazilian insurance market and the insurtech market. All the insurers are modernizing their business models through use of new technologies. This is similar to what is happening in India as of now. And many are acquiring insurtechs, which have been serving the market for a few years. Again, this is a similar trend to what you see in India, and we have, and which will grow even in India. There are many basically which will build their own startups in-house. Again, this is a trend which is catching up in India. You either partner or you build your own. But the preference is towards partners because you get a ready model for it. We move ahead to the next one. I'll just move to the Beltec. So this slide just shows you what are the insurtechs which exist, which are the traditional insurers, where do we have a combination, a little bit about the insurtech market, about Creditas, basically Creditas bought over the insurtech Minuto in July 21. They have many insurtechs are basically raising funding over there as of now. Jutos has also received funding recently. So you can see what is the percentage which is of insurtechs which is growing in Brazil. And then probably getting acquired with more investments. So we move to the next slide.
For some reason, I'm moving the enter key and the down key. Both is.
If it is not, you want me to share?
Yeah, I think that's better. Let's do that. Yeah. I'll stop sharing.
Okay. Just give me a second. I'll have to change. Just a second. So this is basically on the Beltec, which exists over there in Brazil. Basically, this is one of the largest markets where people invest, or where only a small percentage of population invests in stocks. They have all Brazilians, as I mentioned, have a very strong online presence, which is why they prefer that. Robo-advisories are flourishing over there. Consumers are happy with robo-advisory as they see benefit in getting automated investment advice. So that's again one of the things which is very prevalent in the Wealthtech market over there. And portfolio administrators over there can distribute products without intermediaries, thus allowing robo-advisors to make investments on behalf of their customers. So these are a few things which are very different from India. And which are very prevalent. And I'm sure this is our roadmap to go forward to. In terms of various robo-advisors which exist in Brazil, there are names which are given over here, and there are the online brokerage firms which we have listed there. I'll go to the next slide. Just give me a second. Again, I think mine is also not shared. Just a second. So I'll just, yeah, sorry, I'll just list the various insurtechs which are there, Beltechs and insurtechs which are there existing in the market. So you see the whole huge number of fintechs which exist over there, similar to what we have over here. For this, I'll just move on and pass it on to the next person. I'll just stop sharing too.
Thank you, Nita. Hope I'm audible and my screen is visible to all the participants.
Yes.
Yeah, Nikhil. Yes, it is.
Yeah. Thank you. So, good evening, all. I'll just quickly take you through my bit. So, we have created this map to summarize the overall fintech ecosystem in Brazil. To begin with, on the digital banking side, new bank, there are neon bank is there, new bank is there. So my colleague has mentioned before, Brazil Indian banking system always had this problem that all the banking was concentrated with 4 or 5 players right from the beginning. So which led to a lot of non-competitiveness in the market.
So when these banks actually started coming in after 2015 onwards, so they kept the customers and they consider put they actually considered these particular, they kept customer centricity and the customer user experience at the forefront, and they designed all the array of the banking products. So like if I have to take an example of new bank, so new bank when it started with the credit card propositions initially, and later moved into the array of the banking products on the saving side, and some of these banks have also started offering their products on the SME banking side also. On the crypto side, basically, it's a very interesting case in Brazil because the earlier president, Mr. Bolsonaro, in 2022, they had come up with a regulation to monitor the crypto market. And so actually they provided a clear-cut framework with the help of the CVM, which is equivalent to the CB in Brazil, which handles the security transactions in Brazil, who regulates basically security transactions in Brazil. They came up with a clear-cut guideline on what to be done, what not to be done on the crypto side of it. In fact, Brazilians do consider crypto. There are, you can say, out of the 20 crore population, there are 1 crore Brazilians who have actively invested into crypto market, which is huge in number in terms of the participation at the scale. So because of that, there are crypto exchanges which also started flourishing because of the clarity on the guideline part. So there are exchanges like Binance, who is there across the world. I think they have a presence in many of the countries. Then the Foxbit is there, Novadax is there, who represents the crypto exchange, this particular thing. And in fact, they are so like I've mentioned, Brazilians are quite active as far as the investing into the crypto market is concerned. Then on the personal finance side, we can have so we can say on the personal finance side, there was a Qatar who actually helps in negotiating on refinancing the debt at a better price than this thing. So it's like debt, it's like a marketplace where it helps you to get connected with the financial institutions, but their target segment is they primarily help the users to refinance the existing debt at a better price or at a better terms. Then there is a Vice Obrar, we can say Vice Obrar, they started with a digital spending platform. So one thing is common between all three places, they actually understands the spending nature of the particular individuals, and then accordingly they come up with a different loan products with the help of their associates, and wherever they have a types with the financial institution, they try to come up with the products which can help them to refinance the existing loans, or maybe to get a fresh loan. So that's how, with the help of spend monitoring, they will try to come up with the key proposition on the lending side for the individuals. Again, on the P2B lending side, it is a new one in Brazil, but the one thing which is very distinct over here is you can actually finance SMEs on the P2B side. So all these, so in India, it's primarily on the individual to individual side, but in Brazil, it is you can individual can also finance the SME through these P2P models, and this next schools mutual BTC Jam. So because one thing distinct about the BTC Jam is you can actually lend the Bitcoin or cryptos using the BTC Jam. So unlike what we have, we can only lend money using the P2P lending platform. BTC Jam enables users to lend the Bitcoin and cryptos also using their platform. Then if we move on to the lending part, as Bhavik has rightly pointed out, Brazil always had this problem of their APR rates are pretty high. So there are players like Easy Creditas, Novo Verde, Capta, Trig. They came up with the distinct products. They came up with their unique propositions, and they tried to address this particular segment well. They are actually competing with the legacy banks in Brazil, and they wanted to they wanted to showcase, differentiate themselves with the existing banks that are currently functioning in the Brazil. So they try to come up with a unique propositions. So like we'll take a case study of the Creatas in the next slide, and I'll explain you what all things they came up with, which was very unique compared to the other banks which did not offer which did not offer till that point of a time. Then there are trading markets, as we have seen that the penetration of the security market is, although they have a regulator and everything in place, but the investment into the security market is not that size. So there is a lot of penetration, there is a lot of scope for the penetration. So all these trading market platforms actually helps users to invest into the equity market and whatever market which are covered by the CVM, which is like, as I mentioned earlier, it's the SEBI equivalent of SEBI. It's a SEBI equivalent, which is a regulator who regulates this thing. So whatever kind of markets which are regulated by CVM, trading platforms actually help them to actually help the individuals to invest into those particular markets. On the card side, since we have seen a lot of spending and a lot of payments are still happening through the cards mode. So even though so after the PIX coming in, it has started denting this particular cards player to a bit, but the card spending is still a significant portion in overall m-commerce and e-commerce segment. So all this GateNet and Stone is in fact is considered to be is unicorn in Brazil. So all they have their products and proposition, and they actually help the in terms of payment processing and the payment gateways and everything on the card side of it. Then enterprise financial management, basically for the SMEs who wanted to manage their finance well. If they want to have a unique, we start with Conta Azul. Conta Azul is basically is a cloud ERP. They have their accounting solutions also, accountancy solutions also. Then they help in terms of reconciliation services also, invoice management. All these players are have started flourishing after the emergence of the real-time payments in Brazil. And they are primarily focusing on the SME segments who was not addressed by the earlier players. So that is how these people have started catching this particular space. On the insurance side, like Neeta had mentioned in the previous slide, that it is 17th biggest market in worldwide, and the annual premium which is collected by these insurance companies close to $62 billion. But similar to banks, they used to function like a legacy players, insurance companies. So with the emergence of insurtech companies and the new generation insurance company, let's take an example of UZ. So UZ is not, they started as an insurance tech and later moved to the later became an insurance company. So all these players have quite disrupted this insurance market. And in Brazil, and in fact, insurtech and insurance is considered to be a next big thing after the payment space. On the payment side and remittance side, payments like after the PIX, which is a UPI equivalent, after that coming in, the real-time payment has actually flourished. In India, UPI cannot be done for the businesses cannot undertake the UPI payment, but in Brazil, they can undertake the PIX payment. So UPI, technically speaking, UPI can be done in Brazil by the businesses also. They can also use the UPI service. All these particular entities like Stone, PLO, so ADN is considered to be the biggest, one of the biggest players as far as handling the payments under the PIX. This thing, then eBanks is there. Also, if we talk about the remittance space, remittances. Total immigrants who are stationed outside the Brazil, they annually send close to $4 billion to Brazil, which is a remittance market, inward remittance market from the immigrant standpoint. In fact, their regulator has gone beyond a bit, beyond that particular thing, and they have allowed the small SME businesses also to send and receive money under this cross-border transaction facility. In India, is still not there for the SME and non-individual customers. For individual customers, you can still do the LRS transactions. You can receive the money from abroad, but on the non-individual side, it's still very much restricted. So regulator has actually opened this particular space for the fintech players, and these companies like Seguro, not Seguro, Remesa Online, Small World, and MoneyGram has grabbed this particular space, and they have done pretty well on this particular side. And with them coming in fact, the competitiveness in that particular market has also gone up. So, may I request for the next slide, please? Hello.
Just one request, Nikhil. I think we are running short of time, so.
Yeah. Yeah. So on the fintech player side, I've taken a couple of case studies who are the top 10 fintech players. I'll quickly cover that. So Nubank is considered to be the poster boy of the Brazilian fintech revolution. Nubank, if you see, as we have discussed earlier, there used to be a physical banks. There used to be a legacy bank who used to operate on a physical branch basis only. Due to that, their operating cost was pretty high. When these fintech players like Nubank came in, so that actually disrupted the market pretty well because the operating cost was not on that side for these particular fintech players. So they started offering the products at a lesser price point. So products like, even let's say in Brazil, if you have to transfer money locally also, still there used to be a lot of cost involved in that particular thing. That has gone away. That has been taken care by the new generation fintech player. Also, the younger population started adopting these particular set of fintechs pretty well. So that is why it also indirectly drove the financial inclusion. And total, if you see worldwide, it's considered to be the most valued fintech. It's considered to be most valued neobank in the world. It has the total valuation was close to its total valuation was close to $50 billion, and it has close to 4.8 crore users. And they have also started expanding into the other LATAM countries like Mexico and Colombia. It has also started catering to the MSMEs. So they have close to 11 lakh MSMEs, which they have already onboarded. They have a product proposition all across, right? Like I mentioned earlier, so they started with the credit card, debit card, then mobile payments, fixed acquiring, personal loan, everywhere they spread across. Also, wherever they had some limitation, so they try to cater that particular segment to remittances part. So like we talked about the use where Nubank is closely tied up with them. Then the remittance segment, which we just now talked about, there are dedicated players who operate into this remittance market. So Nubank partnered with them and increased the scope of services. Then investment, secured financing also. Secured financing, they have recently started coming in. So we'll talk about that as well.
Nikhil,
On
sorry,
yeah.
sorry, I think Shashank
Still,
also.
yeah.
If you can move to the last segment.
Yeah, this one.
Maybe Pulkit can take the last segment, the VC part.
So
Sure,
yeah,
sure.
I'll just cover it. This just one slide. It's the
Yeah.
last only.
Sure.
Yeah. So operational cost, I'll just take 1 minute from you. So like operational cost is quite low, and because of that, their gross margins are pretty high. Their CACs are one of the best in the industry, and 80% of their customers are actually acquired through word of mouth. That is why they manage to keep the CAC well, and they are close to a good amount of active customers on a monthly, which generates a granular income every time. So I'll just hand over to Pulkit to take the presentation forward. Thank you.
Sure, sure. Do you want me to present or you're okay presenting?
I'll present. Pulkit. No worries.
Sure, thanks, Nikhil. So I think since we are running out of time, I'll keep it really short. The VCP investment ecosystem is critical to any country's fintech evolution, as we have seen with India as well. Something that's unique to Brazil is that they have grown in fintech like I think India as well has grown until 2021, and now we would see a dip going forward in 2022 for when the data is not available. But something interesting to note about Brazil is that 39% of the VCP funding went into fintech. If you compare that number to India today, that number should be around 15 or 12 odd percent. Right. Moreover, so this shows that whatever funding that comes into Brazil, right, it's more or less being directed towards the more successful fintechs. While in India we have SaaS, we have consumer tech, we have other avenues to invest as well. And So that's what I wanted to focus on. Of course, one of the last ticket investments has been into New Bank and Creditas. New Bank is expected to IPO. Creditas is also expected to IPO next year, and so is the case with Circ. Both of these three companies, if they IPO in the next few years, it would look like a very positive, healthy, exit-friendly ecosystem for VPCs as we go forward. Nikhil, can we go ahead? Sure. So again, right? So as is the case with India, just for context, has 106 unicorns, and out of which 35 odd or 32 odd I would place as fintechs. Brazil, on the other hand, has I think quite a lesser number. I think something around 15 or 20 total unicorns, right? So the lack of growth capital is something that's missing in the country, and I think early stage funds have come along. And people who invested in new and Creditas would be standing at a good return today. But of course, there has been definite interest from global funds like Ribbit, like QED, Kona, sovereign funds like IFC as well. And there has been some local action in terms of Redpoint. That's a collaboration between a US fund and a Brazilian fund, and SP Ventures as well. So a healthy ecosystem, I would say, slightly behind India in terms of high ticket investments coming in. But yes, fintech is one of the most attractive sectors for an investor in Brazil. Yeah, and I like to conclude there. Yeah, sure. I think we are done with our presentation. Shashank.
I think amazingly great session, presentation, Hitesh, Neeta, Pulkit, Bhavik. I think it was good effort. You tried to, I think it's not easy to cover 45 minutes, 45 minutes, an entire ecosystem. Good job. We will not have the Q&A at this moment. Maybe we'll plan to have a Q&A in the next week sessions. Okay. And also the feedback. We'll go through the presentation and currently in this way. So may I request group 2, so I'm not going again with any particular order. Group 2, Daisy or Weber.
Yeah, sure. So Seema would start it off. Yeah, Seema.
And guys, again, a sincere request, let's try to maintain the time as much as possible. I'm not trying to rush any team because you have put in a good effort and we want to make sure that it's all about the learning, right? For you as well as us, but try to optimize time as much as possible. Yeah, thanks guys, go ahead. Can you put up in a slideshow mode? That would be good.
Seema, are you speaking on mute?
Yeah, I was just about to ask. I can't hear it.
Hi, Seema. I guess you're on mute.
I go on screen share, it doesn't seem to let me mute. So let me try and share now. Just give me a minute.
Yeah. I think it went on mute again, Seema.
Maybe someone else can present if possible and Seema can talk. That would be
Yeah.
Okay. Let me try to download the presentation. If anybody has downloaded, in meanwhile can go ahead, or I'll just download it. Just give me a moment.
Yeah, sure.
I'll just paste the link in our.
Akash, do you have that PPT? Maybe you can just upload it from your side.
No, just give me a moment. Akash, just allow me to share the screen.
I think it's available to all guys.
Oh, okay.
It's available, yeah.
Just let me know once it is visible. Okay.
Yeah, we can see your screen, the PPT to come.
Okay, here it is.
Yeah.
So how do I press the full screen?
You just go to slideshow.
Just go to
slideshow. It's on the top right.
Actually, it's not visible because this zoom bar is coming over here. Yeah, okay, now it's visible. Okay.
Yeah.
Is it okay?
Yeah,
Yes.
let's get started. Okay,
Thanks,
go ahead,
Vaibhav.
Seema.
Hi, good evening. We're team two, and we have a really good mix of people who come in from a strong banking background. We have Ashish, Shafali, Daisy, Sandhya all come in from banks. Plus, we have a few folks from tech. I'm from Google Cloud myself. We have Prashant from Tata. And we also have Vaibhav who comes in from InsurTech. So that's quite a diverse team. I've really loved working with every single one of these brilliant minds over the past couple of weeks and learning from the diverse viewpoints they each brought to the table. Moving on, Vaibhav. So here's what we'll cover today, a quick context of what the UK fintech ecosystem looks like, and then what are the key drivers, how they're really impacting the evolution of the fintech landscape. And there is a slew of government and regulatory measures that have come in the UK, so we'll have a specific focus on that. Then we cover payments and the UID framework. And then we'll conclude by drawing a comparison between the UK and the India fintech ecosystems. Next one. Yeah, so the UK is amongst the most attractive destinations for fintechs to set up base. It's literally the number one in Europe, number two in the world in terms of the fintech investment that it draws, number two just behind the US. So that's to put it in a global perspective. If you look at it in terms of contribution to the economy, it's a good 11 billion GBP, which is about less than 0.5% of UK's GDP overall. However, if you look at it from the world fintech perspective, that's the global fintech market, this is literally about 11% of the global fintech industry. It has also been a tremendous job creator, about 76,500 jobs that fintech has contributed to the UK job market. And that is set to explode, getting to about 105,000 jobs by 2030. And even if you look at the number of financial services and fintech firms, overall it's about 64K financial services firms, out of which 2,500 are just fintech firms in the UK. Over 100 unicorns, which kind of rings a bell when you compare it with the India market. So that's a huge financial ecosystem that's growing at over 24% as compared to the global average of about a 20% growth for the fintech sector. So really a high growth ecosystem that we're looking at here. Next slide. The ecosystem is divided into 8 broad categories. The largest segment here is wealth tech. And you have some key players like Revolut, who also, by the way, have a play in banking. Then you have Squirrel, Parity, Personal Finance. Some of these are the wealth tech players that are key to the segment. And then we have payments, which is a close second, which forms about 19% of the overall market. And there you have SaltPay, Checkout.com, and SumUp as the key players. Following closely with payments is banking and lending, both of which are at about 13% of the market. And Vaibhav, maybe if you could just use the laser pointer to point at those segments as I speak, that would help. Yeah. So thank you. So the lending segment has players like Lendable, for example, and there are really interesting products that are coming out in the space, which I'll cover in a subsequent slide. Banking is quite the typical banking. So you have your deposits, mortgages, banking platforms, and operations. But these are the 4 biggest segments overall. Then there are the smaller ones. There's a play in InsurTech, which is about 6%, RegTech at about 10%. InsurTech has some players which are familiar names like Marshmallow, Zigo. And then for RegTech, it's really about the ever-evolving compliance landscape in the UK. You'll see how much and how rapidly that's evolving in a subsequent section. But these are really the fintechs that help keep up with all the reporting that has to go in to keep up with those evolving compliances. And one small interesting emerging segment is the quote aggregators. So these are really the online comparison engines which help you get quotes from multiple core players and then stack them up to help you make the best decision on your investments. If you look at how this ecosystem really spreads itself geographically, you might want to focus on the little map I've put on the left side. So that big black blob that you see there is London. So that is the super hub of the fintech ecosystem in the UK. And then you have the three dark green dots. So those are what are known as the established clusters. So right at the top you have Edinburgh and Glasgow, and then the middle you have Manchester and Leeds, and then you have Birmingham. So these are the three large clusters that are very well established. The smaller green dots are what are known as emerging clusters. Now, there's a huge national initiative that focuses on how we develop these fintech clusters. So overall, the UK growth story, although London is the super hub, is a story that goes well beyond UK. It's really across the country that we see a lot of fintech establishments and evolution that's happening. Next slide. So quickly cover the top trends in this industry. Regulation has a separate focus of its own, but here I'll really cover what's happening at a macroeconomic level, what are some vertical specific trends, and what do we see shaping the technology landscape. So at a macroeconomic level, it's worth noting that interest rates, which had typically been less than 1% until as late as the end of 2019, have suddenly shot up to 4% now. So we're really looking at spiraling interest rates, which makes it really hard for firms to secure funding. And therefore, investors are really, really focusing on profitability. So there's quite a squeeze on firms. There's quite a squeeze on even how they manage working capital. And therefore, it's on the fintech side, it's leading to a rise of fintechs that can provide invoice financing and therefore take care of working capital for these small SMEs. Also, on a similar trend is the cost of living, which is very, very worrisome in the UK. The Bank of England was mandated to keep inflation at about 2% or lesser. And what we are looking at in reality is more than 10% today. So that's 5 times of what the target was. And that has led to consumers heavily cutting back on any discretionary spend, which includes spend on any fintech apps that they might be using for wealth tech. That's one noteworthy trend. Along with that is a penalty system that's kicking in. So UK had something called Making Tax Digital, which went live last year for VAT, and it's going to go live in 2026 for income tax. So this means that all of your digital tax filing is now mandatory to be in digital form and in a certain prescribed form. And if you don't do that, there is a steep penalty, which means for fintechs, it's a huge opportunity that they're looking at to just digitize your tax filings. And on the vertical specific trends, there are some really interesting business models that have evolved. Robo advisors was something that the Brazil team covered earlier. That's quite a trend in the UK as well. In addition to that, they have something called socialized investing, which I found really interesting. So eToro is a classic example of a company which does this, and they have a great presence in over 140 countries. What they do is they look at people in your network who are very successful investors, and they help you replicate their investment portfolio and investment strategies. So that kind of digital broking and socialized investing is something that's catching on as a nice trend in wealth tech in the UK. On the payment side, they're catching up with what is quite pervasive in India already. So if you look at things like bank on file or variable recurring payments, for instance, this is essentially, there are two flavors to this. So one is pay to me, which is you can sweep between accounts. And therefore, it makes it more liquid for your cash to be in any of your accounts. And then you can just use a sweep and sweep out to make sure that your payments are on track. Then there is a pay to merchant where this is essentially like a direct debit, but with a lot more flexibility and a lot more security. And payment facilitators is another emerging trend with payments. We just heard about payment aggregators, payment gateways. So this is pretty much the same, and it's changing completely the way that businesses, card networks, and the acquiring banks all work together. On the lending side, we have a huge focus on responsible lending. So just like India, UK is hitting a big speed bump with BNPL because a lot of the fintechs that had this as a business model went bust or are close to going there. So the regulations are tightening and there's a lot of focus on responsible lending. They have a few innovative products that are worth noting in the lending space. They have income smoothing loans and overdraft alternatives, which in fact are quite a competition to what banks are offering. And all of this is fueled by open banking, which makes it much easier to exchange account information, have a consolidated view. On the tech side, you have AI-powered voice assistants. AI chatbots are a big, big pervasive thing. Robo advisors we already covered. Blockchain is also picking up for crypto transactions. However, it's worth noting that UK does not have any framework yet for crypto transactions. They're coming up with one. The consultation paper is just about being called earlier this year. With that, I'll hand it over to Ashish to cover the VC investment landscape.
Thanks, Eva, for taking us through the ecosystem in UK. I'll be taking people through the investment landscape in UK. So UK has been one of the most attractive destination for the investors. And in fact, in 2022, UK bagged 12.5 billion of investment through VCs in various deals. And though the global investment was down by 30%, but they could gather some 545 deals overall in the last financial year. So out of these 545 deals, there were 32 were mega deals. Mega deals are considered to be deals above $100 million. So there were 32 mega deals in 2022. In fact, the global market was down by 30%. They could gather 32 mega deals in 2022, which was at par with 31 mega deals, which they reported in 2021. And out of these 32 mega deals, 13 were having investments which was more than $200 million. So which was huge in last financial year, as in 2022. And in UK, we have seen a lot of investments coming through incubators and accelerators. There are angel investors who are putting in money in the various initial stage firms, fintech firms. Also, there are seed investors. There are early and later stage VC funds which are operating. And we also have the PE funds there. And also in form of FDI, a lot of fintech startups are getting funding. And when the fundings are the fintech which are at later stage and which are grown, they are also going to the public and raising funds from there and getting listed in London Stock Exchange. So if we see the UK has has been holding like second position in global ranking, and which is like after US, they are at second position as of now. And the top 5 deals, if I talk about, there has been like investment in FNZ, checkout.com. In FNZ, the funds were raised from CPP Investments and Motive Partners for $1.4 billion. And at the valuation of 20 billion. This transaction valued at 20 billion for the FNZ. And also at the checkout.com, the funds were raised through various like SoftBank and Ventura Capital and DMG Ventures and a lot of other investment firms. They put in money in the checkout.com and they raised $1 billion in 2022. And there has been like consistent growth if we see from the year 2014 to 2022. There has been a consistent growth. Last year, 12.5 billion, the overall which was raised. And the top investors, if we see in fintechs, have been Tencent Excel and Y Combinator, CPP Investments, Motive Partners. They invested in FNZ, which is a wealth tech company. And Tencent and Excel and Y Combinator, they invested in Monzo Bank, which is an instant loan and payment bank. 4.5 billion they invested in the Monzo Bank. Silicon Valley Bank and Index Ventures, they invested in Wise, which was formerly known as TransferWise, which is a cross-border payment firm. So they invested 1.3 billion in Wise. And SoftBank and Tiger Global, which is a very active investor there in UK, they have invested in Revolut, a neobank, which is a very famous, obviously we are discussing about Revolut throughout, and it's a neobank, and they invested 800 million there. So as we are seeing over the period of time, the companies are getting into later stage of venture capital funding. So we can expect that tomorrow it is going to be the merger and acquisition and consolidation in these fintech startups in UK, and that is going to be the future and in coming years. So I'll now hand over to my teammate for key drivers in fintech ecosystem.
Vijay, are you there?
I am there. Actually, I'm just shuffling this network. Am I audible now?
Yeah, you are audible, Vijay. Please go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, quickly going to continuation. So is a slide, yeah. So the key drivers fintech ecosystem is ideally UK government itself, where it's been driving for the fintech platform in a very vigorous way. Because as per the Innovate Finance UK investment in the year 2021, it has reached around 11.6 billion, which is only second after the US, in which includes both VC investment and listing on LSE also. So basically, City of London, we can just go through there also, which research found that fintech firms have become the largest source of financial service, which even includes FDI and the UK government funds, which accounts the third of all projects. Even you can see globally, you can go to the next slide. So that what it is just to mention, there are globally around 6,000 deals were there. Out of which there are biggest deals of three of which were Revolts one there, Monzo was there, and the Wise is also there. So based on this, the UK government which is into fintech. Ideally, the deals are on a higher note, because of which it is very good. So coming to this, even proactive initiative from policymakers, like say FCA Sandbox, which is law which allows business wherein they can use the firms, whichever the fintechs they want to start, they can check as per the rules and regulations, which allows them, and along with the regulatory expertise. So whatever the regulatory sandbox have become, which is successfully, which are still operational also. And recently the launch of Khalifa review, which will be taken through further. So I'm quickly going because Khalifa review will be covered further in a detail. So even Tech Nations FinTech program, which is support of FinTech and InsurTech, is ready to start. This is a normal one. So also there is one more Innovate Finance, which is a committee of large institution startup. Even there are funds or which is they are giving 10% of discount for startups which are investing in FinTech startups. So which is ideally pumping the funds or that which is driving the fintech part in a rigorous way. Can you please go to the next slide? So coming to workforce, UK has one of the strong workforce when compared to software developers across the world, because this is done by the initiative of they are issuing visa programs which is linked to talent attraction. For example, it is mentioned the Tech National Visa Scheme, to a destination by the home office, because even the labor shortage, they are specifically giving the visa kind of pay to the people who are good and strong at this kind of skills. So which is enabling to work further and faster on the tech firm, tech innovative. Yeah, next slide.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, Vijay, go ahead. Sorry, your voice was breaking. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that's actually the Wi-Fi is only there, but actually I don't know. No, the next slide is not yet.
Okay. Is everybody else able to see the slide?
We can see government and regulatory interventions.
Right. So Vijay, I think we have reached to the conclusion of the previous section. Maybe Shifali and Daisy can take it forward from here.
Yeah. So while we were doing the study and a lot of changes in terms of regulations are still being brought about in India. So it was interesting to know that these regulations have come long time back in UK, and it seemed that they wanted to have the regulation in place, and then the fintech market to flourish, and they'd been in fact quite enabler. So we would say that the regulatory framework that is there in UK is far more mature, and we are seeing all that happening in India. So it's like, whenever we were doing it, it was almost like a comparison. So there'd been regulatory sandbox which has now been introduced in India. We have RBI hub which has come up in Bangalore. So I think this sandbox has been there since 2014. Then we even on open banking, that has been there again from 2018, and some 9 large banks came together to open up their data and infra. So this also enabled a lot of collaboration and new innovations, and customers were getting advantage of newer products much before what we are seeing in India now. So they also have a very established licensing regime. So there is a Prudential Regulatory Authority, which was set up in 2014 to help new fintech to get those licenses. Similarly, PSD2 launched in 2016. So effectively, that licensing, we just was hearing Jaspay talking about PAPG licensing. So they were all there before, but there was no license or rules around it. But in UK, we see that these systems are already in place, and the entities which are participating are all governed by a certain framework before they actually come to the market. UK has also introduced tax incentives, which they're giving R&D tax credit and patent boxes, which provide tax relief to the newer players who are investing in innovation. Come to the next slide. So, we've got digital lending framework now after having gone through, in India, after having gone through some of the practices which were not acceptable or which were not right. Here, lending apps were first, they have to be authorized by Financial Conduct Authority, and then only they can come into the play. Then there were already fair lending practices which were prevalent. There was data protection guidelines which were there. Then consumer protection. I think we are still not there in terms of something not going right in terms of the lending apps resorting to different means to get back their money. But here the consumer protection guidelines are again very robust. Then there is financial crime prevention. So all these lending apps are required to follow all these guidelines before they actually come to the market. So in all, our conclusion has been that the framework had been very robust and mature, and that is why it becomes far easier for fintech to operate in the market. They know the rules before they actually come and hit the market. Next. Daisy, you can take over from here.
Sure. Vijay briefly touched upon the Khalifa review in his regulatory interventions. I think it's a very interesting exercise, which was commissioned by Her Majesty's Treasury Unit, done by Ron Khalifa, who's the chairman of the fintech giant WorldPay. This was around July 2020, and the recommendations came up in 2021. The endeavor here is to ensure that UK remains one of the world's leading fintech locations. There are, of course, threats which the report identified. One is increased competition. There are other centers like Singapore, Australia, Canada. We've seen the Brazil presentation as well, where the intensity of fintech participation activity investments is growing. That poses a threat, of course. Brexit caused inflow of talent into Great Britain as a roadblock. So that needed to be addressed. COVID, of course, had an implication that the world was going digital as a footprint, and that was an opportunity as well as a threat because globally all fintechs were fairly active in terms of digitization. So what this report in a way concluded was there were 5 areas across various sections, which is across policy and regulation, across skills, across investments, across international participation, and across national connectivity. And it laid down clear plans and agenda items where the industry regulatory bodies will collaborate together and ensure that UK remains at the forefront of fintech activity. Just to quickly summarize some of the key areas in policy and regulation were to first, to get a single regulatory body view, which is nothing but the Digital Economy Task Force, to ensure that across all regulators, there's alignment in terms of how they are looking at fintech guidelines, regulations, and that eases the ease of implementation for a fintech entity. One is create a new regulatory framework for emerging technology, Scalebox, which focuses on emerging technologies as well, and basically ensure that the regulatory interventions and the regulatory participation, it makes the whole life of a fintech entity far more easier. Second, of course, we've seen this in the key drivers of UK fintech is the workforce, the UK workforce, which is very, very critical to the fintech ecosystem. One of the key initiatives is to create short-term programs to retrain and upskill adults in support of UK fintech, new visa streams to enhance global talent, access to global talent for scaling up fintechs, and building a pipeline of talent by workplaces in further education, higher education students. As far as investments goes, this was covered by Shefali a little earlier as well, so I just briefly touch upon it. Extending the R&D tax credit, enterprise investment schemes, venture capital trusts, all of this to ensure and make it easier for right from angel investors to institutional investors to participate in the in the fintech ecosystem. Create a global family of fintech indices to enhance the sector visibility. In terms of international participation, deliver an international action plan for fintech. They launched a fintech credential portfolio to support international credibility and increase ease of doing business with UK. And of course, to drive an international collaboration through the Center of Finance Innovation and Technology. Seema spoke about the 10 clusters, and these 10 clusters can be further subdivided into 4 subclusters. The national connectivity process ensured that across regulatory bodies, industries, there was enough help across ecosystems, right from the fintech in the seed stage to a fintech in an established or an IPO stage, to receive adequate help and support across various factions to ensure that they deliver their objective. Let's move to the next slide so the other teams can take over.
Yes, Sandhya, if you could please take over from here.
Thank you, Daisy. Yeah, coming to UK payments landscape, as we noted in Seema's presentation, this is the second largest subsystem in fintech space within UK. And UK, if we compare that globally, they are the third largest in terms of the transactions value made in as of 2021. So that was 96 trillion in value. And out of that, 90% of the transaction value coming from CHAPS. So CHAPS is the high value transaction payment scheme used by corporates and the financial institutions. So when it comes to transaction volume, that is relatively less compared to other countries. So it is 40.4 billion in terms of transaction volume. And out of this, over 90% is coming from consumer payments. And one of the important observations here we had is that the most used payment method is debit card, which accounts to 48%. And the second most used payment method is cash, which is declining over the years. And that decline accelerated during the pandemic, but still it constitutes 15% of the payment method. And one important thing is about the observation we had about faster payments, which is the real-time payment scheme that is used in UK. So it is growing over 20+% over the years. And currently it has a market share of 9% in terms of the transaction volume. Go to the next slide. So coming to, let's have a deep dive in terms of real-time payments in UK. So as I said, faster payments is the real-time payment scheme that is used. It is available 24/7. And this is mainly for the retail segment to make low-value transactions. And in 2021, 3.4 billion is paid using the real-time transactions. There is another real-time transaction model which is coming, payment scheme which is coming, which is a new payment architecture. So the difference between the new payment architecture and the faster payments is that the faster payments, the settlement is done through a central hub. But in the new payment transaction, the settlement is going to be done using a distributed ledger infrastructure. So this new payment architecture is expected to be going live in 2024. So that's a major development that is happening in the payment ecosystem. Can we move on to the next one? So what is the development that we can expect in the over the next few years in UK? The change in open banking, the adoption of the open banking, and the ISO 20022 standard adoption for all the commercial payments, and the new payment architecture. This is going to bring extensive changes in the entire UK payment landscape. So this is also going to increase the adoption of faster payments. And the next one is about account-to-account transfer. So there is a major push from the regulators to use account-to-account transfer. And this is with the expansion of applications built on instant payment use cases. So that is helping to increase the adoption of account-to-account transfer. So the next growth is going to come in the embedded finance. So as we know, the payment today, even in India, the payment is increasingly serving as a value-added commercial role rather than a money movement transaction today. Right. So with that, the most promising future is for the embedded finance, that is integrating finance products into non-finance ecosystems. And social responsibility is another thing that is coming into the picture. That is, there is an overall momentum for social responsibility in business, and banks are expected to be the gatekeepers for, and banks are expected to be the gatekeepers against money laundering, fraud, and other unauthorized access to payment systems. So, and again, the technology modernization is an important factor. So after a long period of incremental upgrades to the payment systems, now companies are making structural changes into their payment infrastructure. So this is coming as a response to the continued rise of instant payments on open banking requirements and cloud technology. Another thing is about the impact of geopolitical situations. So the geopolitical disruptions are actually altering the long trend towards globalization, and the countries are moving towards payment regionalization or localization. However, there is a need for streamlining the cross-border payments, and there is a need for cross-border payments to be seamless, quick and cheap. And so we can expect a lot of work that is going to come in that area as well. And as with the advancement in technology, there is new forms of digital money, which is brought into the scope of payment legislation. And there is going to be a potential digital currency being launched by the regulator in the future. So with that, I will hand over to our next presenter.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you, team. I would take the forum with the UID framework, or the Unique Digital Identity Framework, and what are the data privacy regulations. To start off with, what we observed as a team was overall, UK never had a stable unique ID identification mechanism that was put in place. If you look at the past 2 decades, there were attempts made. It started off with, say, Identity Cards Act, which was more of having a physical card in place for each citizen of UK. And it was more of a paid service where £60 was supposed to be paid by the user to establish or to get the card. However, it got scrapped. UK being a conservative economy is what we read through the literature. The people had apprehensions about the Cards Act, saying that, okay, it was violating human rights. There was biometric being captured. There was personal information being captured. So it was scrapped. Again, with the rise of new economy, there were frauds being observed in UK, wherein the government again felt the need that, okay, there should be some mechanism of verifying an individual's identity, especially on the online and the digital scenario. And that's where the verify.go.uk came into the picture. It was quite a success. However, still it was not meeting the investment of 154 million pounds that was made. And hence, it was also again being touted that, okay, even though it enrolled uh, majorly for the government services, 6 million plus users were also there. But then right now it was in the phase of, okay, whatever investment was made, it is not meeting the targets. And that's where government came up with the UK One Login program, which is now supposed to be staying for a few years. However, it is also being backed by a digital identity framework that will take in the next section. But these were some of the attempts. So when we look back this to the Indian landscape, what we see that Aadhaar, even though has been criticized for not keeping the privacy, or sometimes being criticized for not having enough security in place, but Aadhaar has been one of the pillars of our fintech revolution in India, at least. However, UK is still in that phase of stabilizing. One interesting framework that we were talking about, which is in WIP mode, is the UK Digital Identity and Attributes Trust Framework. Again, I won't get into the details, but two key messages over here is that an individual is associated with attributes. Attributes can be his education, his employment history, his devices. So they're trying to create a trust framework in which this data of individual and his attributes are shared interoperably between different entities. So they have defined a very structured framework where they've identified identity service providers, attribute service providers. In a summary, you can look at the diagram where we say that, okay, more like a account aggregator. And, I related to this as soon as this diagram was there. See, in our account aggregator, we saw a similar framework wherein there are entities which are nominated to take consent, and then there is a data transfer happening. Similar kind of framework exists, which is UK DIATF, wherein there would be seamless data transfer, rather the digital identity attributes transfer among players. That was from the unique digital identity aspects. We now quickly get into the data sharing and privacy management. As a team, there was one very interesting learning over there, that data sharing and privacy management in UK have two different dimensions and two different aspects. On one side, where there is a privacy management, there is a taking care of the citizens' data. On another side, very advanced level of initiatives are there in terms of identifying frauds. One such was initiative was National Fraud Initiative, and just to our surprise, it started way back in 1990s. This goes to show the structured process. Individually, as a team, we found UK's economy in terms of the thinking process quite structured, because at every stage of evolution, they have thought about various programs that have kept their citizens' interest in place. So National Fraud Initiative is one where they identify frauds by deduping the data across different databases that they have. Then My Data program was another step that came in 2011, which was more on how the emerging players can share consumer data and try to provide more value-adding services to the consumers. And I think open banking initiative was covered by my team members, Shifali, Vijay, where open banking as a concept has really democratized in UK economy. Then we move to the privacy part. So in the previous section, we spoke on the data sharing part. Moving to the privacy part, already as it's a well-renowned framework, which is the GDPR, the Europe as a whole continent has been very forward in terms of putting down the principles and the framework around it. So UK has implemented GDPR in the form of Data Protection Act, followed by a very interesting regulation, which is Privacy and Electronic Communication Regulation. They have gone to the depth of also specifying the privacy rights for marketing calls, emails, texts, and faxes. That goes to show the thought process that the government is putting is very, very detailed level. And if you go on to the government's website for UK, each and everything is documented in very depth. So that was very fascinating to see. Now, the future for privacy, as we have an Indian equivalent in the form of a DEPA, the DEPA framework, there is an advanced version which is coming up for the UK economy, which they call it as Data Protection and Digital Information Bill. It is currently in the Parliament stage. The first reading in the House of Commons have happened. They have different houses in the Parliament, House of Commons, House of Lords, then multiple reviews, and then it goes to the Royal Assent where it is finally approved. So very interesting. Just two key points. They've also thought through about the data flow between economies, not just within the country, but within various countries, how the data flow, what should be the provisions for it. They've also thought about how the AI part and its implications are to be taken care. Then children's data is also a very interesting point that has been part of this whole bill, and it would get approved in the subsequent days. That was a brief on the unique digital identity and data privacy management. Prashant, are you there by any chance on the call? Prashant? Seema, Daisy, is Prashant visible on the call? If you
Yeah,
can
at least we can see Prashant there logged in.
This is visible.
Okay, no. So Prashant had some medical emergency. That's why I was just checking. No issues. I'll just quickly cover. So we are coming to the conclusion of our presentation. To Sashank and the whole Digital 5 team, we as a group thought this presentation from an end-to-end perspective as an economy, as UK, and hence various aspects that were mentioned. We tried to explore that. Plus, all these sessions we tried to correlate at different stages, and we also reflected back that okay, what is there in India and what is there in UK in terms of okay, where are we standing, where is UK standing? More, these points we have already spoken about. But what we generally found is the high support from government, the culture of innovation, the culture of having the consumer based and the adoption is far more better, even though we are catching up in terms of volumes. But the innovation part, the in terms of the support, is far more better in UK. And this is one slide which will just summarize that the whole infra that is available in terms of various bodies like Tech Nation, Innovate Finance, FinTech Alliance, for each fintech startup in different stages of their particular life cycle, and for different aspects of the business like partnerships, giving access to talent, or scaling up to the international markets, or taking their value proposition to go to market, or putting the policy regulations in place, or capital investments. At each stage there are multiple uh, bodies available to support or handhold or facilitate the growth of a fintech startup. And definitely that shows why UK is number 2 in the world in terms of fintech landscape. These were this whole presentation was quite insightful. And when we used to go on the calls, we used to discuss that okay, oh, this is the where UK is leading, this is where there is a scope. With this, these are references, and we would like to conclude our presentation over here. Thank you, team. Thank you, Digital 5 team, for such a great assignment, and thanks all as a team. Thank you so much.
I think absolutely brilliant. I think Vaibhav, Daisy, Seema, and every team members. I think it's clearly gives a good insight into that reason, and I love that the concept that you try to look at it, that comparison between the UK different drivers and the India drivers, and then try to correlate into that. And I think some of the things aspects have been deeply looked at it, especially on the regulatory frameworks, because I also feel that UK is quite very proactively regulatory driven, be it on the open banking, challenger bank licenses, and all those things. So with this, I really thank to the whole team. And with this, maybe I request the group 3 to come and present the presentation.
Hi, Karthik here. Do we have the entire team here?
Hi,
Good.
Karthik.
Um,
Hi, Karthik. Siddhant this side.
yeah, Siddhant is also there. Good. Anirudh?
Yeah. There, Karthik. Yeah, you.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Prerna joined the call today. She was not keeping well. Yeah. Okay. And Vivek Rana, sir, I think
Yes.
he's also there. Okay, perfect. Okay. So, hi.
Prashant on traveling. Yeah.
Sorry?
Prashant is not joining.
Prashant is also not joining. Yeah. Good evening, everyone. This is Team 3 from Digital Fifth, and the country that we were asked to work on was Ethiopia. To give a context of Ethiopia, Ethiopia is a second largest. One minute. I'm not able to move the slide. Yeah, okay. To give a context, Ethiopia is the second largest country in Africa, second largest populous country within Africa, right? When we did the research about this country, we could not find a lot about Ethiopia in the secondary research because it's not documented in many research reports. Because when we look at various countries within African continent, be it Kenya, Nigeria, Ghana, South Africa, Egypt, these guys are front runners in on the fintech and digital transformation space, right? And Ethiopia is one of the very new entrant in this space, right? So for us, the benchmark was like to look at what is the entire African continent is currently doing, right? So when we looked at that, so on the right hand of the slide, you can see that African continent is in the you can say where India was like 20 years back or 20 or 25 years back, like it's one of the fastest growing population, right? And UN is expecting the population to grow. The entire African continent population will be like 40% of total Earth population by 2100, right? So that at that speed, the population is growing, right? Second is with respect to the banking infrastructure is very limited, right? Still, for a lot of African countries, agriculture still happens to be the major revenue or economic driver, right? So the major banking infrastructure is very limited to cities, tier 1 cities and tier 2 cities, and not entirely connected to the remotest part, right? So that is another big challenge what we are seeing, right? Third is mobiles and telecom has managed to penetrate deep into the various African countries, but the internet penetration is still lower. It's either because the speed they're still using 1G, 2G, or in some places they switch to 3G right now. They are not yet at 4G or 5G right now, right? And also number of people using their smartphones for any for banking or anything is still it's very low compared to most of the advanced countries like UK or Brazil, right? Apart from that, there is no central credit bureau to evaluate and keep a credit data of all the consumers, right? So that is another big challenge that we see within this region. So having said that, so where we are, like what is that Ethiopia is into right now? So this is Ethiopia is right at the beginning of a momentum where it is picking up the entire fintech story, right? Why I say that, a lot of startups, a lot of fintechs are coming up here. A lot of investors are putting their money into it, and there are we heard some stories outside fintech also who have become a unicorn in e-commerce space. Some have become unicorn into your ride hailing and all those space, right? So the country is growing, the startup ecosystem is growing, the tech ecosystem is growing right now, right? And we can see there are one or two foreign investors also who are pitching in money. At the same time, some people are taking out their money from the space. That is one thing. That is one of the reasons why Ethiopia is in the right place for digital transformation, right? And fintech evolution. Second is with respect to it has a right ingredient with respect to the fintech ecosystem. Why I say that, they have massive young population. The median age of the population is 19 or little less than 20 right now. Okay, they are quite young, and number of percentage of population who are unbanked or underbanked is very high. It's very high, right? They don't have access to high fast internet, but they are very tech savvy, right? And that's something we have seen across an Ethiopia region, right? Right now, the usage of cash is very high. You can say it is as high as 80 to 90% currently, even though there are a lot of government initiatives in this space. but still the cash happens to be one of the largest medium of transaction, right? So that's what is we can see in this country, right? Apart from that, the regulatory environment is something which is not very strong at this point. Government has realized that they way back when compared to other their peer countries like Kenya, Nigeria, and other countries. So one of the initiatives they started is like similar to Aadhaar, called National ID System. They started in 2011, then they put up hold, then again they 2019 they looked into it, and now in 2020 or 21 they have picked it up. It's very similar to Aadhaar, and in fact they reference to Aadhaar system for everything, be it for eKYC, for social security, passing out security money to lot their consumers and all, right? And creating a biometric features for all these rational um, rational diagram for all the their population. So that is something they're doing. Apart from that, they have come up with other initiatives like national payment related thing, national financial inclusion, which later my team members also will talk about it, right? So that is another big thing. Third is, right, Africa overall happens to be the one of the largest mobile money customers, which is very unique. You wouldn't have heard much across, but I think so. It is very similar to your wallet, where you can load your wallet through either some retail stores, or you can you have some agents through which you can load your wallet, and then you can do peer-to-peer transaction and other things. So Africa and Ethiopia happens to be one of the largest mobile money market, right? Apart from that, with respect to overall Ethiopia, you can see the fintech have mushroomed. Your government is also looking into it, and eventually now what we are seeing is a lot of startups have been able to get notice in this place. Lastly, what I want to talk about is related to the digital transformation strategy which Ethiopia has come up with, right? And maybe I'll use next slide to talk about it. So this particular slide talks about the fintech map, right? So what are the various divisions or various sectors of fintech that are present in Ethiopia? Largely, it is banking infrastructure, which is your traditional core banking and consumer banking related software, which are catering to the various banks or the retail banks there. Apart from that, mobile money happens to be the next big market, where I said like mobile money is the largest payment source, right? And that is a medium of transferring money and sending money and all. Apart from that, wealth tech, blockchain, all these are good to have kind of a thing, but they're still not there yet, right? So they're still coming up there. Apart from that, what we look at is also like telecom, particularly. So government was very resistant to a lot of foreign investors and foreign startups to invest in. Even the Ethiopian local startup also did not get that support till 2020. Post that, a lot of new companies have come up, particularly say the Safari.com, which is one of the largest mobile operators. They have opened their own, and they have got a license to start a mobile money operation, right? And they will be right opposite to National Bank of Ethiopia, that Ethiopian's local mobile money partner, eBIT, right? So they'll be contesting right opposite to them. Apart from that, Ethiopia also have come up with their own payment switch. It's called Edge Switch. So that is also getting integrated with your Visa, MasterCard, and other payment rails and all. Apart from that, they have their own integrated bill payment systems and all. So essentially, they are very, very at a early stage into in fintech and also overall tech startup and all. But it's one of the market which we have to look into, and it's going to grow from there. I'm moving to the next slide, and yeah, Dushyant, over to you.
Thank you, Karthik. Good evening, everyone. So we just saw Karthik told us that Ethiopia is at the early stage of evolution of digital transformation. And we also saw in the two presentations for Brazil and UK, and we are aware of India that regulation is fairly evolved. So compared to these three countries and even other countries like Kenya in Africa, like everything else, regulation itself is at early stage in Ethiopia. But the good part is that there is a realization by the government and their central bank, National Bank of Ethiopia, that digital transformation is a key instrument of developmental goal, and financial inclusion is one of their strategic development goal. And digital transformation is a means to achieve that financial inclusion. So some of the key government and regulatory players that are there in Ethiopia, who are driving the policy and regulatory initiatives and creating the enabling environment for digital transformation, are the chief driver is the main institution is their central bank, National Bank of Ethiopia, which has been coming up with the policy enablers. And mostly all these policy enablers have come in last few years, particularly last 2-3 years. So some of the policy or the directives that have been launched by the central bank are financial inclusion strategy, financial sector reforms. Then they came up with 3 directives in 2020. These are the most important directives for digital transformation: payment instruments issues directive, use of agents directives, payment system operators directive. I'll talk about these three in little detail. Then consumer protection directive is their banking sector cyber security drive, and probably the most important policy document that they came up last year in July 2021 is National Digital Payment Strategy. Then there are other broader policy reforms by the ministries and national level commissions. That are though part of the broader development goals, but will be key to creating an enabling environment for digital transformation in fintech system growth also. For example, Ministry of Finance there has worked on homegrown economic reforms agenda. Karthik just talked about the telecommunications reforms. So their telecom regulatory authority is called Ethiopian Communications Authority. They have liberalized the telecom sector, and 2 years back in December 2020, they came up with a bid for licenses to 2 foreign players. One they have already given to Safaricom-led consortium, which consists of Safaricom, Vodafone, and Vodacom. Their main product is their main service is mobile money services. Then their national telecom player is Ethio Telecom. They have already launched Telebir, that is their main mobile money service with the highest penetration in there. And they are going to they are going to divest 40% in their national telecom players. That is also one of the reforms that Ethiopian communication authorities has come up. Then another key ministry that is driving digital transformation is Ministry of Innovation and Technology. They came up with National Digital Transformation Strategy. Then we, just like we have National Digital Identity, Unique Identity in India, Aadhaar, they have Ministry of Peace in Ethiopia, which is working on National Digital Identity Program. Then Ethiopian Commission is working on ease of doing business reforms. Planning and Development Commission is also working on a 10-year national prospective plan. So to summarize the timelines of the policy and regulatory reforms that have come up in the last 10-12 years are like the first major reform was the launch of Ethiopian automated transfer system, which was basically RTGS and automated clearing houses and services. Then in 2016, they came up with the national switch, which was an initial step towards interoperability in digital payments. In 2016, also the main policy, strategic policy document named National Financial Inclusion Strategy. All other policy or directives are basically a means towards financial inclusion only. Then year 2020 is probably the most important year for digital transformation. In 2020, the Ministry of Innovation and Technology came up with the Digital Ethiopian 2025 National Strategy. Then I said there were 3 important directives that were issued by their central bank in 2020. One is the Payment Instruments Issuers Directive, which basically allows non-bank financial institutions to be licensed as financial services provider. It is because of this directive that telecom players are getting into financial services space in mobile money space. Then another directive was on the use of agents directive, which basically allows broader access to agent network management. And this directive also allows financial institutions to outsource agent network and marketing services to third-party service providers. So basically, these are the directives that are towards opening up the financial services space towards non-banking players. Because I understand there is a realization that banking-led financial inclusion alone will not work in Ethiopia. Then another major directive was the Payment Systems Operative Directive, which basically allows non-banking institutions to operate payment systems like payment gateway development, ATM, POS, Swiss development, online payment platform. Then probably the most important policy towards digital transformation is the National Digital Payment Strategy that was launched by NBE in July 2021. Which has basically four key pillars for digital transformation of the payment system. One is they want to create an interoperable infrastructure. Second, they want to promote adoption of digital payments, and there is a lot to be done on regulatory and oversight framework. Fourth is because without innovation and without innovation capital, fintech startup ecosystem will not grow. So enabling environment for innovation is also a key strategic pillar of that policy. So yes, government and NB are working on creating enabling policy and regulatory environment. But I understand this is still a work in progress compared to other countries in Africa like Kenya and or what we saw in UK, Brazil, and India. So this is the regulatory and policy landscape in Ethiopia. So Karthik, next slide. So who is going to take this?
I'll take it over, Dushyant. Siddhant side. Yeah. So Ethiopia is estimated to be $126 billion economy in 2023 and expected to grow at 7.5% to reach approximately $150 billion by 2025. The government of Ethiopia has set out an ambitious plan to transform agriculture economy to an industrialized middle income country by 2025. In terms of GDP distribution, the economy has a 35% share of agriculture, 43% industry, and 22% services. In terms of listing out the key economic drivers, we have taken a holistic approach with key focus on e-commerce and briefly touching upon other industries as well. E-commerce is currently valued around $1.3 billion and is growing at a CAGR of 18.7%. The market still continues to be nascent in Ethiopia, with government preparing a law to govern e-commerce. As per a report by Visa, 75% of the shoppers usually check out due to tedious checkout processes, checkout and payment processes. Some of the challenges that I could find in the literature about e-commerce are that the internet penetration is at 25%. There's lack of trust and awareness on buying and transacting online. Lack of digital payments with cash on delivery being predominantly used, and logistic network still being developed for the last mile deliveries. Some of the key marketplaces operating in Ethiopia, Jumia, Hello Market, and Kefira. The other key economic driver that we see is agriculture, which employs 75% of the workforce and accounts for 80% of exports. The government is also looking at various agri-tech opportunities, combining agriculture plus technology to boost productivity and exports. In terms of manufacturing, Ethiopia is also positioning itself as a hub for light manufacturing of textiles, footwear due to low labor cost and strategic location. Energy, there was an interesting insight, where it is dominated by renewable energy, and they have a relatively small share of fossil fuel consumption. In fact, it has one of the highest share of renewable energy in electricity mix of the world, with 92% coming from renewable sources and 8% from fossil fuels. Tourism is again a growing market with $2 billion size and growing at 8% CAGR. The country is known for its rich cultural heritage, and multiple tourist spots like Oxum Gondar are UNESCO World Heritage Sites. That's the brief on the slide. I'll request Anirudh to take over from here.
Yeah, hi everyone. So these slides actually mostly talk about how the Ethiopia's financial system is distributed currently, and it is just before 2011. What is the landscape used to look like? And by these slides, what we can see is that there are, as we already seen, that the central body or the National Bank of Ethiopia is the regulatory body for banks and microfinance. So initially, setup of the Ethiopia banks was almost 16 private banks, 2 government banks, and most of that, there is a special category of women banks which has also come up. It's called Inath Bank. So this is again that this particular banking sector again they are more segmented with the 5 large banks, and then there is a 1 commercial bank. So this is the first thing what we have found as a literature about the banking systems of Ethiopia, and how each bank have provided different services like ATM, and how many ATMs across this. It's already recorded on 2015. It is almost 15,000 ATMs, and which is mostly the largest branch of the commercial, almost 2,693 commercial bank. So these are the things, and they have seen. And in the microfinance, again, if we see that it is mainly main to provide the service for farmers, poor farmers, and SME sectors to provide certain loans, and again governed by the National Bank of Ethiopia. And there is a different, almost the MFI or microfinance institutions, almost 317 branches all over current country, and there are almost 568 sub branches. So this gives us a kind of informations, and there is this savings and credit cooperative banks, almost 18,000 national, and which is the holding almost 8.3 million active users. So these are the different categories or segment of the financial systems. So when it comes to what Ethiopia wanted to make in during 2011, mostly when they saw there is a lot of immigrant, and then since there is a lot of immigrant coming from external, so they wanted to have a very good remittance systems, which is they can support those kind of immigrant who are coming to country. And they also wanted to start some kind of digital platform to have some kind of different communication between the banks, the interoperability point of view. So they first wanted to have, which is already pointed out by Dushan, is called automatic transfer systems. And to build that particular transfer system, they created different strategy to do that, and that was started in 2011, and they automate 2 different services within that particular thing. Is one is the RTGS, and another is they created another automated clearing system, which I could just rightly mention. And this is, and at that time they also plan to have a national switch setup that is called as National Ethio Switch. So that also they wanted to have the strategy. They launched it in 2016 to connect most of the POS and bank systems with that. So that is a different things when they started in 2011 to 2016. They have moved towards that directions, and it's a similar things they have also done for. But insurance was always 17 insurance company, what we found in the documents, and which is one is government owned, and it is mostly again giving the different kind of insurance for the farmers and farmer related or agriculture related kind of protections. So those kind of things are mostly there. So this is something which talks about the first slides about the financial overview during the time of 2011 and 16. Then we'll move to the next slides where Karthik, can you just go to next slide?
I'm just not able to move to next slide. Yeah.
Yeah. So before I start the slide, so even though we have seen that 2016 there was a good start, but still 2018 still there was not too much of movement towards this the digital economy or something, where because of lot of, which is even Karthik also pointed out there's a lack of mobile penetrations, and the data cost was very high during that time, and there was not too much of awareness of the digital services to public. So based on that, then what government again came up with a different strategy in 2018 to build around how to enable and give a more adaptation towards this. So they form different kind of group and to see that how it can be more available to the general public and with a lesser cost and lesser headache. And then they invited lot of financial technology players to come. Till that time, the fintech was mostly was given by three different fintech organizations, which is part of the again the national. There is a part of the Ministry of Innovation and Technology organizations. They came up with the three fintech, but that is used to call the Bail Cash, and there are two more. I'm just not getting the name. So, but when they came with that particular thing, so after that they thought, okay, let's see that whether the globalizations of technology partners, how they can transform their landscape of digital economy. And that time they open up with a different kind of strategy and rule and regulations, what even Dushan was trying to highlight. And then these are the payment segment, which we have seen that. And first focus, as I was saying, that mostly the payment segment that people came with the remittance service, because that was the key drivers that time, that since there was a lot of immigrant was coming in and their seamless of transferring money across the different country should be there. And after that, and one thing, initially even 2011 and 16, during that time, they also try to launch certain mobile money, and mobile money was definitely was a success some extent, but definitely it did not penetrate as they were expecting because of a lot of different issues in terms of the insurance if the money loss, and there are a lot of challenges they face. Because of that, the mobile money, even though it was governed by the different regulatory bodies, but still it was not penetrated as much. So mobile money was one of the things was there at that time, but there are a lot of fintech came in future with collaborate with the different banks to provide different mobile money services for those banks. Like as we have already said that Safaricom is one of the biggest telecom provider in the country who collaborate with the M-Pesa to provide the M-Money platform. So there are even that another is a mid-bid it's a government-owned mobile money platform, which is again collaborate with the telecom called Ethiopia Telecom. So these are the different players played a different role to provide a different kind of mobile money service. And OPay, then the MasterCard is another. They again had a strategic partnership with OpenPay to provide different kind of mobile money services and inclusive. So these kind of things started coming after 2018 onwards, and this is more another driver was during this COVID. So this is some kind of literature what we have found, and there are the BPC. This mobile money, and if I come to the section of the mobile money and digital banking, when even 2016 onwards, when they made that particular automated teller machines, teller machines, and also certain other things. So that time they wanted a certain retail banking systems to be digitized. So so BPC is that time one of the core banking systems they used, which is we are also categorized in the next slides, which are the core banking systems right now present in there. So so this core banking the system actually it's okay, it is missing here, but the BPC is another core banking system which is used as a core banking systems to digitize the retail banking during that phase. Other than that, so there are many. Okay, lending is always a challenge for the Ethiopia because of the initial stage. The lending was required a lot of collaterals, and there was only the microfinance institutions which are predominantly providing the credit. They are only or they were only financing most of the things, but then the different type of after these globalizations or different technology company was allowed to come. That time they started different company. The first payment provider or the fintech kind of thing is called Kafia. Was they came up with their own integrations platform for those MFI service companies. So to give the digital platform to give the credit, take the collections, different kind of services. They are mostly like to provide a digital platform for them. M-Pesa then started. Belcash is another one who are again started with different kind of lending. BPC also started to enable the microfinance. They also started giving the. So this lending was mostly focused on to provide more non-collateral lending, which was the primary drivers for most of the fintech to join that particular force. So this is the particular thing. We also found certain technology solution companies like Axion, which are one of the company who are given the complete AI-based credit ratings platform. So these are again the bank is like integrating with their core banking systems to provide different kind of credit rating strategy for the things or underwriting point of view. So again, there is another fintech we found that is called Hisabu, which providing mostly the accounting for small shops and all that. So these are the different fintech companies what we have seen has come to after 2018 onwards, that who are doing the different kind of, and there's some companies are tech companies are purely into the consulting, who are helping mostly the bank to go for a digital transformation kind of journey and providing different kind of transformation services what they required as a consulting point. So the Visa and not the MasterCard network, payment network, they are also collaborating with the government, and especially MasterCard is having a lot of strategy built around the different kind of financial inclusive what they're planning for the 2025 as per the digital strategy what they have uh, actually given. And this insurance only the one company what we have seen that who have started, but this is the Kafia again. This is that they have extended their service also towards the insurance tech. So this is the something like what they're providing again for the agriculture is something which is with the one of the MFI who was already that's called Oro Oromia is the insurance company which is the MFI who they have joined hand with them to provide different kind of digital platform for the as an insurance tech. So this is something, and open banking is a eco bank is something what we have seen that it is giving as a some kind of the integrations again with certain banking core banking systems and all that. So it's more like coming in future. It is still not fully implemented, but there are certain banks are trying out the pilot. So this is the mostly the what the fintech system or ecosystem what we have able to gather the information, though the information is very limited for Ethiopia. One of the biggest reasons to that there's a political issues and social issues. They were not too much of people able to generate the report about the country, but they're slowly opening up, and they're opening up of their new digital economy strategy what has come, and it is going to be more going to be biggest enabler for future from for the 2025 roadmap what they have given as a first stage. Thanks. Over to Dushan again.
Thank you, Anirudh. Thank you, Anirudh. So I'll talk about the investor activity in fintech space. So these are basically some of the names that Anirudh also talked about in his discussion. Basically four observations or four key points about the investor activity there. Yes, Ethiopia is opening up investments or foreign investments in financial services space, which is a prerequisite for incubating the fintech ecosystem. But still, to say the least, they are conservative, and that is the reason investments in Ethiopia in fintech startups are small, very small compared to the numbers we saw in other presentations. And in fact, numbers are not even available for some of the deal, or some of the deals are in the nature of partnerships. If you look at the nature of services, most of the investments have happened in the startup that are into either wallet or mobile payments, or some of the names are there like Pefaya, which are there in the digital unsecured lending, payment gateways and POS and remittances services. And also, most of the investors are for them basically these investments are extension of investments that they have already made in some of the countries like Kenya and Nigeria. As some of the players are already there in Kenya and Nigeria, now they are coming in Ethiopia also. So I'll just quickly name the fintech players there. Like Mbir is there in the mobile payment space and money transfer space. Kifaya is probably there one of the most evolved fintech players, which is doing digital lending based on artificial intelligence, and they are doing unsecured MSME lending. They have partnered with two banks there, Bank of Oromia and Mishu, and Mishu is another product with a cooperative bank there. Moneta Tech is in the wallet and digital lending space. Axiom Financial Technology is a credit scoring. It provides alternate credit scoring and credit rating. Paga is one of the players that is already there in Nigeria and is in the payment space. FreePay is into payment gateway. Payway again payment services. Then two players are there which are there in the blockchain and crypto solutions, Thrift and Equival. Unicash and Abe Bank again payment solutions. So yes, investment is happening, but it is still relatively small at present. Next slide, please.
Dushyant, do you want me to cover this slide?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So this is a final slide. So as we said, so this is still an emerging country, and they are very near, very early player into early stage into fintech and digital transformation and all. So one of the things what we have seen is there are a lot of companies which have shown interest in the agri-tech area, right? There are a lot of companies who are building solutions around how we can they can transfer funds or money to all the to the farmers or the how they can create an end-to-end payment process created for the mainly in the agri-tech area, right? Digital ID, I think we talked about it. This still is not completely. They have still have not captured data of all their citizens. They're still in the middle of it, and once they do that, post that they'll be integrating that with to their financial systems and then eventually into their other social service systems and all, right? SME microservices growth is another big area again, where a lot of companies are investing in solutions and all. One of the also key factor that we have seen is overall in African continent, the country, all the countries have come up with something called African Continental Free Trade Area, right? So where it's like a free market for all the African countries, so they can exchange goods and services and they can transfer money. They might have one single currency also, right? The whole cross-border payments and exchange of goods is something they want to work on, right? And they are building solution around that area. And SME microservices growth will be part of that, right? Coverage of masses in the banking is something which is all the banks and all the fintechs are looking for. They want to reach out to all the every citizen and leverage technology to deliver banking services to the remotest place. In fact, in today one of the LinkedIn posts I saw that Bank of Abnisia is one of the oldest bank of Ethiopia. They have launched a mobile van, literally a mobile van where they have an ATM machine and there are a person sitting in the mobile van, and that van goes around in the villages and some small towns, and they provide banking services. So they have to leverage certain similar services to provide banking services. So they are also getting innovative with whatever facilities and services available, and so they are taking global ideas and converting them based on local needs and all, and then taking it to all the citizens and all, right? FDI, we talked about it. There are a lot of FDIs which are happening across various sectors. Telecom happens to be one of the largest, where large telecom companies are driving currently the fintech initiatives. But now slowly other companies and tech companies also like Alibaba have set up their shop in Ethiopia. Like of all the big players like Google, Meta, Facebook, but I think Alibaba has set up this shop here, and they work in the trade finance area. So they're building solution around trade finance area, right? And widening access to credit. As we said that we do not have a single credit bureau where we have a risk factors or where we have a single repository where we can know which individual is where we can capture the credit profile of every individual, right? So that is something also which is on the top of a government's initiative. Apart from that, one which I have not added is on crypto. I think that is it's a global boom. I think they're also doing a lot of POCs around in that area, crypto and blockchain. So these are the areas where we can see some growth in Ethiopia. Yeah, that's it. Thank you, guys. Thank you for listening. Yeah.
I think amazing. Anirudh rightly said, Ethiopia is not like UK or that Brazil, where that you will have the lots of the information available. But with that kind of the limited information, the kind of the depth that you could able to pull it out, it gives a pretty good idea. But and at least surprisingly, it seems that lots things happening. Yes, mobile money is the dominated segment in that entire Africa region. But I appreciate, I think Karthik, Anirudh, Dushyant, and rest of the teams. Now, we didn't see much of the other team participations, but we'll expect that the other teams also participate. But many congratulations, guys. I think we'll go with feedback on the next week sessions we'll have. So now I think we still have a time. We can now it may overshoot at 7, but we'll request the group 1 to just come up and then start the session, take the session. Arden and others, please. Yeah. And request others to be there because it's always, it doesn't mean that if your session is over, then you just step out. So request everyone to be there. Yeah, thanks. Arden, please go ahead. Yeah, Lakshmi.
Chaitanya, if you want to start. Yeah.
Yeah. Good evening, guys. So we are group one. So we're going to talk about the digitalization and fintech evolution that happened in Vietnam. So it is going to be a journey that Vietnam has evolved over a period of time, right from a debt-ridden and war-ridden country to where it is right now. The very fact that we are studying on Vietnam says that it has made a remarkable progress in terms of economy as well as the fintech space in the world. So to start with, we have Arden, Lakshmikant, Mr. Ritesh, Swati, Vamsi, Mukesh, myself, and Iranna. So I'm going to take through the one sec. So going by the going by the topic that we will talk about is introduction about and some kind of snippets will be taking care, maybe investor activism followed by economic drivers. So this is where we our cohort will come and pitch in and do the presentation. To start with, as rightly said, Vietnam is a very small country when compared to countries like UK and Brazil. But the fact it remains that it has been tremendously well and compared to most of the economic parameters when compared to big countries. Let's see some snippets about Vietnam. So which says which is very evident that it's part of it has a very coastal huge coastal line like similar to India, wherein it ranks 18th in the country in terms of biggest in country in Asia as well as 67th in the world. When you look at the population, Vietnam is still 9.8 crore. But the interesting fact is that 50% of them are females and women-centric population, and 61% are still in rural areas. It is like more or less still there is a lot of scope of digitalization or financial inclusion possible in Vietnam, which is where the drive is happening over the period of time. So the one good fact that we came to know when we did some research over here is the literacy rate is phenomenal, 97%, where you expect some minimum understanding of things with the population comes into it. So when it comes to power ranking of Vietnam, it's 30th in the world. Whereas when you see the global country innovation, it's in innovation index, it's about 48th. So looking at the evolution of Vietnam, it had come over a period of time. So I feel it's had made tremendous impact in its global picture as well as the economic situation. Moving fact, the other fact which I wanted to really comment upon is that Vietnam has done a phenomenal job in respect to debt to GDP ratio, which is significantly lower than India. Maybe it's not about the population, but it's about the way they have managed their debt to GDP. So there are some basic industries that contribute well to the economy, such like textiles, food, furniture, plastics, tourism, communications. And as you know that communications in Vietnam has played a very vital role in what the country is now. Basically, it has increased tremendously and invested a lot of capital with respect to improving the telecommunication as well as the infrastructure. Though one more provoking the thought itself is like being a small country, trade surplus of Vietnam is almost 3.6 billion, which is really shocking for a country like size like Vietnam. And look at the inflation rate. So where the country was almost in 360% in way back in 70s and 60s, they have almost gone down to 100. So this is a phenomenal growth story of Vietnam, but probably we'll take it over a period of time. So I think I will stop here and probably take over. Vamsi will take over from. Thanks.
Hello, everyone. I'm going to talk about the investor activism in the complete Vietnam. So coming to the Vietnam ecosystem is like measure the funding is happening in the fintech ecosystem in the total funding size from the startups. So 40% of the investment is going in the fintech side. It is one of the emerging space in the Asian region where Vietnam is growing in the fintech space. Coming to the fintech funding in Vietnam is reached to 720 million in 2021. Data based on the Asian report by the Overseas Bank. So these are the few of the VCs. They are existing in the Vietnam ecosystem. So they are the major investors in the different digital startups. So the startup like the VCs, total VC size are like 150 VCs are there in the total Vietnam. These are the major VCs who are investing in particular to the fintech space. Patamer Capital is an impact-driven VC fund investing in a large stage companies. They are focusing on the platform-based and impact and financial returns. So they invested in this. These are the companies they invested in: the Impact Credit Solutions and Mio, MyShub Life and IO Connect and Kinara Capital and Vivo. And Monk Hill Ventures is one of the big VC who are majorly investing in the digital technology companies. So they invested in the Coder School, Bottomd and Dagan Davel. There and also the major other country investors like Japan SoftBank and Singapore's GAC has invested in the VNPay. The funding in the space of payments is very high comparative to other fintech sectors. So this is one. Can you go next slide? So this is the growth of the.
This question, Vamsi, you mentioned MyShub Live and Kinara. These are like Indian startup, right?
Yeah. Kinara is from Bangalore.
So they have invested or
they have invested. They have invested. Yeah, they have invested in that.
Okay.
Yeah. So these are the investment ticket sizes yearly basis they have done. And this is the projection of 2025, what is by one of the Statistia. So that was the report given by them. So I have taken from this and majorly in 2021 funding was majorly on the payment side. And in 2022, it was like majorly was the funding on blockchain startup. So I have the list of the VCs. Like I have not presented it in the presentation, but although I can mention the few startups names in the payment side: MomoPay, VNPay, or MPay. They are getting a huge funding, and they are the best startups as in the fintech space regarding to the payments. And in the wealth tech also, they are getting good funding. Their ticket size has been increased. In the FinHay, many of the SoftBank and Goldman Sachs has been invested. Sequoia Capital also invested in that. They have raised in 2022. They have raised a few money. And P2P lending is also growing in the alternative lending space. And there in that a few startups names are Timo, TIMO, and sorry, not Timo, Viamon and ZoloPay. That is the two P2P lending platforms where they got funding in the 2022. And crowdfunding and blockchain startups are growing, and they are getting good funding in the this Vietnam investments. Thank you so much. This is the presentation. So you can see this capital invested by sector. Like payments is the major companies who are like 850. This is the USD dollars. The investment scheme. Majorly it is happened in the 2021, not in 2022. 22 it is like a blockchain, wealth tech, and insurtech asset. It has happened. Can you go for next slide? So till September 2021, this is the growth of the VCs invested in this particular country. When actually the data which is for 2022, it is not available. We did not find it, so we presented it. Yeah. Thank you so much. Next slide is by. Can you please take on someone?
Irana, are you there? Irana, are you there?
Irana does not seem to be there. Maybe it's dropped off.
No, he's there, but I don't know whether his voice is not audible.
Okay.
Am I audible now?
Yes,
Take it over and
okay, I would like to present here for economic drives in Vietnam. Vietnam ranked third highest in the online retail sales growth. First one. Second one, Vietnam stronghold on e-commerce platform. That's Larja, Shopee and other. Shankar, 1 minute. Larja, Shopee, Tico, Sendo, and the other Digo. These kind of platform from Vietnam, which looks like for India, Amazon and Flipkart. 53% of consumers considering online shopping as a habit in Vietnam. That's a big boost for economic drives. Population by the income group daily from ISTO 2011 purchasing power of party PPP. Next slides, Shankar. Vietnam growth rate of real gross domestic product from the 2007 6.94. Then it's come to as on for 2023 6.16% and 2027 6.82. It's grown up for that. Next slide, Shankar. Vietnam inflation rate from 1987 to 2027. It's come on 1987 for 362, 2017 for 3.5. Next slide, Shankar. The Vietnam dog has been consistent against the US dollar while strengthening against the border places. 2018 to November 2020, we can take for this data. Next slide, Shankar. Imports of Vietnam is Malaysia 2.4, Germany 1.4, in South Korea 16.3, Japan 8.5, and China 28.4. United States of America is also investment here for 4.3%. Next slide, Shankar. This is the important slide for economic drives. Digital banking play a key role for Vietnam for e-commerce sector. So important for all countries. Revenue from e-commerce have increased 15% in 2022. Is a phenomenal number of e-commerce in Vietnam. Adoption of new technology frameworks and strong digital infrastructure is boosting for e-commerce in Vietnam. High demand of Vietnam agriculture products and agriculture, all other activities improve in this sector. In 2022, 85% of consumer prefer digital mode of traditional modes. It is the development country sign. And foreign investment as of come to the foreign direct investment blossom. Here is the very high for compared to other countries. Companies from Asia, Pacific, European and investing in Vietnam is very high. This is the major focus of economic drives in this presentation. Thank you, Shankar. Over to Swati.
Thanks, Irana. So I will talk about the regulatory initiative. And before that, let's quickly have a look into the regulators in Vietnam. So State Bank of Vietnam, that is the key regulator in Vietnam. It acts as a central bank. So it regulates the banks and other credit institutes. So it is responsible to granting the license, then issuing guidance on the banking activities and overall supervision of the banking activities. So apart from that, there are other regulators as well. So the Ministry of Finance that regulates the insurance company, fund management companies, then security companies. The Ministry of Public Security that is responsible for the data privacy and the security part, cyber security part. MOIT Vietnam, the Ministry of Industry and Trade, they are responsible for registering the website applications and the e-commerce platform. The other two regulators, the Ministry of Science and Technology and the Ministry of Information Communication, they are participating in the researching and they are drafting, developing the fintech standard. Next slide, please. Okay, so from regulatory landscape perspective, Vietnam is still in the early stage of the development. But although the regulators have started taken some initiative, considering that they want to promote the cashless society and the of course the financial inclusion. So that has been they have taken some initiative. I will discuss about that. So it has been started around 2017 when the SBF, the Central Bank of Vietnam, they have established fintech steering committee, so to study and improve the fintech ecosystems. After that, around 2019, the strategy around the Vietnam banking system that has been published, and also the outlines how to implement them, that has been published. So regulators, the government of Vietnam also promoting the green banks and green credit. So their aim is to increase the loan on the for the project in mainly in the renewable energy, clean energy, and also on the low carbon manufacture and the consumption industry. Next is the security part. Of course, it is the most important area, and they have strengthening the cyber security, information protection, that part for the privacy, private protection. They have also published some draft decree on that. Then the regulations, they have put a regulation to govern the intermediary payment services. So intermediary payment service that includes the financial switching, then electronic clearing services, payment gateway services. They have also started some pilot program. One is for mobile money, as the Ethiopia they have also mentioned. So here also mobile money they have introduced, and some pilot program around that has been introduced. So we know that mobile money means it allows the use of telecommunication accounts to make payment of a goods and service, which is a small amount. And from the lending part, they have also started the pilot program on the P2P lending area. Like other different regions, they have also working on the regulatory sandbox. They have given the effort to build the regulatory sandbox and some strategic initiatives from the Vietnam that are already put in the sandbox area. Then they have also enabled the eKYC part. So eKYC is enabled by the National Database of the Citizen, which was put in operation from February 2021. Next, they are also aiming to support the enabling fintech enabling technology like cloud computing, blockchain, AI, ML. So they are working on that. Sai, can you please go to the next slide? Okay. In 2020, a research group is also established by the MOF on the digital asset and the digital currency part. Next, from the security market and insurance perspective, also the Prime Minister of Vietnam they issued a plan to restructure that market, and also they have published a vision for the 2025. If we see from the e-commerce business perspective, in that space also the draft rules has been published. Government is trying to releasing certain licensing requirements so that it can facilitate the fintech investors. Along with that, governments are also trying to take several initiatives like setting up the accelerators, innovation labs, incubators. They are taking the initiative to increase the digital literacy among young population. So Vietnam is a young country. So 70, as I already mentioned, that 70% ages between 50 to 64 years. Okay, so also government encouraging to invest on the IT infrastructure side as well. So in this, these are the sections where the regulators already started working on that. There is another section from the open banking. I have tried to say that, but some banks exports the open API, but from the regulatory perspective, there are no such regulation in place as of now. So overall, although government is taking initiative here and there, so the government needs to design a strong regulatory framework so that it balance between the innovation, the consumer protection, and the financial stability. That's it from my side. I'm handed over to the Ritesh.
Thank you, Swati. Thank you, Swati. Basically, I'll be taking care for unique digital identity framework and government systems for Vietnam. So if I look into this, if we compare India to Vietnam, okay, what you will find here that the very same concept was started way before which Vietnam did. India had started the very similar concept in 2010, right? The Aadhaar concept, Aadhaar for all, which was taken under the taken under the leadership of Nandan Nilekani, UIDI, being a chairman, right? So herein, digital identity framework was in Vietnam has been started post-COVID crisis, that is in 2020, wherein all citizens above the age of 14 years must possess a citizen identification number, and it's being given to every individuals after an age of 14, and this particular national identification number is valid only for 15 years. Post then you have to get it renewed again. Okay, so if you look at, it is very similar to Aadhaar also. It is a 12-digit unique identification number like Aadhaar it is. Then if you look at KYC part, right? So KYC, like before COVID had come into place, in Vietnam, each and every other citizens had to visit to the bank branches, to the government organizations or agencies to get the KYC completed. So it was not a presenceless layer. Here in each and every individual had to do that because KYC was not done electronically. But after when COVID came into place, Vietnam was forced to adopt the eKYC process, and it was implemented post 4th of December 2020. A national ID or passport is required to proceed with the eKYC process. So if you talk about the major documents which are being required in Vietnam, it is either national ID or the passport. Okay, so if I talk about Vietnam, then in Vietnam, the government is very much strict in terms of the public data. And like we have in India CIDR concept, they have a national population database system which is being managed strictly under the Ministry of Public Security. So next slide, please, Shankar. Yeah, thank you. So if you look into this, if you see at India, we don't have a concept of like mobile money or telecom account, right? But if when you compare it to Southeast Asian countries, the adoption here in Vietnam, if I say, it is around more than 17 to 18%. It is now 20%. So what it is actually, this is basically a card that is being given to every citizens in India when they can go to certain touch points. They have agencies where the citizens can go and recharge the card, which enables them to make small transactions related to daily utilities like gas bills, electricity bills, basically those bills which are being issued by the government's body. Okay, so this account is managed and authenticated on National Electronic Identification Application developed with MSP. Then since I am regularly what I am doing here, I am comparing Vietnam with India. So if you look at India, we have a DigiLocker concept, right? Wherein we can store each and every other important documents in that locker itself. But so that you don't have to carry it everywhere where you need it, right? So the very same concept has been given to the citizens of Vietnam. It is called National Electronic Identification Application, wherein each and every citizens can store their important document, government IDs, national identification number, identification card, the vehicle registration number, health insurance, and all. So can you please transfer to the next slide, please, Shankar? Yeah, thank you. So that's all about the framework we had. Now I'll be talking about the government systems. So I have bifurcated this before, like pre-COVID session and after COVID era. Okay. So actually, if you look at Vietnam, they were not very much positive about the fintech landscape before COVID. But after when COVID came into place, they changed the very much approach, because pre-COVID they had an approach. They had basically played a role of primary observer, where they would wait and watch other countries what they are doing into fintech landscape, and they tried to copy paste that model into their country, which would work and which won't work. But when you see after COVID had hit in, then developing the different frameworks and different frameworks and providing different regulatory sandboxes, this has enabled, and we can clearly see that the government in Vietnam is now having an innovation facilitator approach. So under this government innovative facilitator approach, what we can see that the Prime Minister has instructed the relevant authorities to build a testing framework, that is a regulatory sandbox for financial and banking services. This is being taken care in 7 different fintech segments, including P2P, lending, crowdfunding, then blockchain, then open APIs, and many other programs, digital payments. So can we move to the next slide, please? Yeah. Still, since we have started late, because in Vietnam we have started each and every other approach, like if you say innovation kind of approach or any such like of approach in fintech space has been started post COVID. So the development, they are still in developing phase. And if you look, the last 2 years development that has happened in fintech is comparatively very higher, which didn't happen in 2 decades in fintech in Vietnam. So still Vietnam is in a nascent phase compared to some other Asian countries. Now they have started regularizing the P2P lending under the regulatory sandbox, where several other fintechs are also joining to perform these activities. And if you look, then they each and everything, like the database wherein they can hold different government documents and all important documents on each has been developed post 2020. So can we move to next slide? Yeah. So if you look into this, the government has taken many initiatives to make sure that they are also moving the same pace as like other countries are doing. So they apart from establishing a regulatory sandbox, they also incentivizing and lowering the tax slabs, subsidizing then import exemptions are being given to the corporates who are trying to have some innovations in the fintech space. Then State Bank of Vietnam has also eased the regulations in financial and banking sector, so that more people can move in, more corporates can move into this. As I have previously told, that they have allowed new players to operate in P2P lending, customer identification support, open API, blockchain. And also I have discussed about the telecommunication account and mobile money. The adoption here is now around 17 to 20%. They are moving, they are very much aggressive into this, and they are hoping for increasing to have at least 25% of adoption regarding to telecommunication account this year. So that's all from my end regarding government systems. So Mukesh can start from here. Thank you.
Thank you, Ritesh and team. So data sharing and privacy management, coming back to coming to the basics, so in Vietnam, right to privacy and personal and family security is basically fundamental constitutional right. It was outlined in Article 21 of Constitution and 38 of Civil Code. So it's a fundamental right of the citizen. And then there are certain ministries who manage, data privacy, network security, or cyber security related guidelines. So primarily, Ministry of Information and Communication is the one which is responsible for managing personal data and protection of it. But this Ministry of Information and Communication works in close coordination with the other key ministries there. So they form any such law in close coordination. So other ministries, which are very active in this, space are Ministry of Public Security and Ministry of National Defense. So they see, data from holistic perspective, not just trade, commerce, or, identity point of view. They also see this, data as, from point of national security, public security, and national defense. So that's why these three ministries, have quite a fair say in such kind of law. So so far, Vietnam does not have any uniform consolidated umbrella law on privacy and data management. However, the entire ecosystem is guided by two key documents, which are named Network Information Security Law and Cyber Security Law. So these can be, we can call them parent law, who actually govern, entire subset of sector-specific, regulations or frameworks which Vietnam has. So like, for BFSI, health, education, and, all such respective industries, the respective ministries will come out with the, specific guidelines to govern, rule, operate, and, have any kind of dispute resolution. However, all these law basically keep, are kind of, they have evolved under key regulations like civil code, labor code, or specialized data protection regulations. So again, every sector will have a specific law, but again, it will be broadly guided by the key, constitution, which protect fundamental right of personal privacy and family secret. So, however, Vietnam as a country is progressing fast, like, my colleague Swati and, Ritesh just mentioned in previous slides. A lot of things are, WIP, post, COVID, they have started realizing that they have to have very unique and a strong framework for, identity management and, personal data protection. So ministries, especially MPS, which is Ministry of Personal Security, public security, they are coming out with the consolidated law draft framework, which is called PDPD, which is, public proposed, proposed decree for personal data protection. So this PDPD will be a uniform code which will be governing, right from identity management to cyber security, network security, or all sub data, privacy norms. This PDPD was supposed to be, maybe implemented by December 2022. However, it is delayed because of a lot of criticism or local issues, which came up during public feedback. So this is, with the National Assembly Standing Committee, which is reviewing this draft, and it is expected to be, announced and, publicized by mid of this year. So this PDPD will supersede all previous laws and will try to address a lot of challenges and issues which, data sharing and privacy management, challenges which are there in country Vietnam. Next slide, please. So although, this the existing law which is there in whatever shape and form, it govern, it basically addresses quite a local issues like data processing, data handling, data transfer. However, the biggest problem which we found during our research in this country is, that there are laws, but these laws are not very specific. They do not, speak with clarity, as to what has to be understood under subset of a particular law. Say, for example, if data has to be transferred, what format, it has to be transferred in. If data has to be localized, in what format, the data has to be localized. And then, if a party or a kind of organization has to kind of keep a copy of data in the country, what format it has to be, it has to be in. So there are a lot of, unanswered questions, which, basically the operators in this industry face. So PDPD law, which I just mentioned a minute ago, this law is supposed to be an exhaustive one and supposed to address all such issues. So that is it from my side on data sharing and privacy management. So over to you, Arden.
Thank you, Mukesh, and a very good evening to everybody on the call. I'm here to talk about the digital payment landscape in Vietnam. So let me first start by giving you an overview. So together with the traditional payments which we have, with digital payments such as bank transfers and credit cards and debit cards, the emergence of the new age digital payments such as the real-time payments and digital wallets also coexist today in Vietnam. And there has been a surge ever since we went into COVID. As Swati also mentioned initially when she spoke about regulators, the chief regulating body within the country, the State Bank of Vietnam, regulates the payments within the country and has similar roles and responsibilities like the RBI. I'll throw a few statistics at you. So traditionally and predominantly, Vietnam has been a very cash heavy economy. So more than 75% of the transactions today, which are executed in the country, are by way of cash. And there are 25% of these payments which are executed by way of other means or digital modes. Also, if you look at trends on the e-commerce platforms within the country, more than 57% of the transactions are executed by way of bank transfer or cash on delivery. This clearly goes to show that there is a lack of confidence in the digital infrastructure within the country. It also means that there has to be an upliftment as far as education goes to the citizens of the country. And we've already touched upon how we need to build, better cybersecurity, resilient payment systems, and data protection, which is, starting to evolve and develop within the country. So clearly, once you have all of these things coming together, you'll see a start more, adoption towards digital payments. I think the areas of opportunity is what I want to speak about next. If you look at, the adult phone users within the country, you have 73% of the adult population which actually has a smartphone. Now, if Vietnam wants to get to a stage of where India was as far as the UPI movement is concerned, obviously this is a segment which needs to grow significantly. So, in order to adopt a digital first and strategy and to ensure that you have bulk of the payments executed by way of smartphone, there is work to be done in this space. Another very important statistic is also the underbanked population. Now, it's been largely an agricultural country, which is starting to get into a lot more services ever since the China Plus One strategy has been rolled out across various countries. You have 50% of the country which is still underbanked. So there is an opportunity here again to tap and increase, the adoption of technology and digital literacy in space. I'll just touch about a little bit about the COVID behaviors here, because just like any other country, Vietnam is no exception. Its digital commerce just went from zero to nothing during the COVID period, and we saw cashless transactions go up almost 169% between the year 2020 to 22, and which equates to close to $12.3 billion of transactions. But with the disappearance of COVID, what's happened is that you've started to experience a huge comeback towards moving to the preferred mode, which is cash. And this is here where the government has now started to step in. And what they've done is that they've put out an incentivization scheme to drive further adoption and digitization of payments. And they call it the National Digital Transformation Program for the year 25 to 2030, which they're looking to adopt through various incentives. And I'll just talk about two major principles here. So what they mentioned is that 50% of the banking operations, they want people in the country to actually execute on digital or through the browser, and more than 70% of the transactions as a whole within the country needs to be done through a digital channel. So again, speaking about the incentivization scheme, the development of the data protection bill and the infrastructure, I think they can start to make a lot of inroads here. I'll talk about one special area, which has been the disruptions they have witnessed in the space of digital wallets. So during the COVID period and slightly before that, there has been the launch of the digital wallets within Vietnam. And what we see today is close to 39 million digital wallets activated in Vietnam. But you can just go to that slide, which has a small graph. If you look at these, it's a very important statistic to note here. If you look at the first three players, which is Momo, Viettel Pay, and Airtel Pay, they account for almost 90% of the total digital wallet market. So definitely there is an opportunity here again for more players to come and disrupt the space. And another really important statistic is something at the bottom. If you see the digital banking as well as the SME lending, is right at the bottom as far as digital payouts go. Now, again, with the program that you have in Vietnam being a very important ASEAN market, I think if there is the right focus of even getting the subscriptions as far as mobiles go and the underbank community coming to play, you'll start to see a lot more disruption, and maybe those ones which are at the bottom today, which as far as digital banking and SME lending is concerned, actually start to move up the ranks. So that's it as far as the real-time payment system goes within Vietnam. I'm also wanting to talk about the payment ecosystem, but that's largely overlaps with what my colleague Lakshmikant will talk to you in the fintech ecosystem. So we've collaborated here, but to ensure that it's a seamless presentation and there's no overlap between us, I'll hand it over to Lakshmikant, who will talk to you about the overall fintech ecosystem and also cover the payment infrastructure piece. Thank you.
Thank you, Vamsi. Am I audible? Okay, so welcome everybody. So when I was looking at this whole image of where we show the entire fintech ecosystem of Vietnam, I was really surprised. Though they have adopted late the fintech, it's pretty comprehensive. They have got everything. They've got insurtech, they've got real estate tech, they've got POS, payments, of course, is there, accounting, finance. You look at SME financing, you look at core bank, open digital banking, everything they have got covered. Like, it's more than what I could actually expect. So this was in 2021. So you can only imagine now what's going to be in 2022. It's going to be much more. Okay. Having said that, let's dive in a little bit more in detail. So for example, in insurtech, if I were to classify insurtech, you would have online insurance aggregators, you would have microfinance, micro insurance platforms, you would have mobile-based insurance platforms, you'll have digital claims management platforms. So online insurance aggregators, just like policybazaar.com, we have got in Vietnam, like GoBear and Timo. And for micro insurance platforms, you've got Chubb Life, FWD. And then for mobile-based insurance platform, wherein they provide all those services on mobile apps itself, like it's Bao Viet Insurance and Tala. And there are dedicated platforms for claims management also. So we have got like InsurTech Vietnam and Medix who provide this kind of services. To summarize more, there's also surprisingly even usage-based insurance platforms over here. So Bao Min Insurance and Viettel, they provide such solutions. They provide just how are you in your real life? They'll capture all those details. How you are using different assets in your life. What's the usage pattern? So based on that, you'll have your insurance premiums coming to you. So these kind of insurance platforms are also there. Then to summarize, like Inso is again a standard insurance service provider. Shio is another one who provide their via mobile app. OPS, Save Money. These are all different insurance service providers. Okay, let's move on to Realtech. Realtech is another one interesting thing. In real estate, we have FINA, we have got RevX. So FINA actually provides a range of services like property listing, rental management, property maintenance. They use it to make property management process much more seamless for landlords and tenants. And RevX actually adds one more layer into it, and they also involve the real estate agents who can manage their listings and have the whole load of services. Same thing applies for Finso, Homebay. They all are providing one way or the other way in which you are going to manage your property. House Invest is another interesting one where they offer a range of services for searching a property and investment analysis and financing it. So they've got a whole load of services around it, House Invest. Moving forward to POS-based solutions. If you were to classify, you would have mobile POS, traditional POS, contactless payment solutions, and payment gateway solutions. Payment gateway solutions we actually were speaking today. So mobile-based, we have got MPOS, Vimo, ZaloPay. We have got traditional POS solutions also coming in from VTC Pay and PayU, and contactless payment solutions are also there for Mocha and VNPay. VNPay apparently is also a unicorn in Vietnam. Then payment gateway solutions, we have got some of the more famous ones like OnePay and SmartLink. There are also payment solutions via loyalty and rewards based. They are becoming increasingly popular, and some companies are also providing rewards and solution based POS systems, and companies like Loyal Solutions and Vouchy are there. Okay, then of course from our current set of things, we have got iBox, which is again which provides point of sale solutions, which has got inventory management, sales analytics, customer relationship, everything included into it. Cook, it's a specific POS system specifically for restaurants and cafes, you know. And then of course Suno, Loop, they are all there, like, which provide a range of you know, services which are almost similar in nature. Okay, moving forward, we have got into retail investing. You know, this is another area which I would also say that, okay, they have got robo-based services, there are investment platforms, there again, you know, we've got personal finance management also, we'll again speak later. So we've got these services coming in from for robo advisory service, which are really picking up. Like Finhay is one of the startups which is providing retail investors opportunity to invest in mutual funds and other investment products. They are making it more accessible, you know, and they are also specify minimum amount of which you can just start, like, you know, say for in terms of yen dongs, it's around 50,000. In addition, they also offer savings and insurance products. And Trade, it is another interesting startup. They also provide investments into ETFs. Fire and another Vietnamese fintech startup. So they work via mobile app more. Stockbook, another startup which is providing these services. Look at the kind of so many companies already there, like, you know, in this zone. FM Market, another Vietnamese startup that offers all the platform that for retail investors to, again, for stocks, bonds, and other financial instruments. They provide research reports as well. Okay, moving forward, we have got credit score and analytics. So we have got VN Credit. Okay, they provide service.
Sorry, yeah. Lakshmikant, these slides are not moving. Are you on another slide or what?
Yeah,
like I am at least able to see only Vietnam's fintech ecosystem.
No. Okay, it should. Yeah, this one, right? I'm so sorry.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. So if you want to see on top, you've got your insurtech, then you've got real estate, fintech, POS. You've also got your retail investing, credit score, and analytics. This was something that was really speaking about credit score. So here we have got, like, you know, VN Credit, which is again a startup that provides credit scoring and risk assessment. They use machine learning, data analytics, and they include financial history and behavioral data. So these companies like, you know, VN Credit, Trusted Social, Experion, Credit Lab, they all provide similar kind of services where they use a lot of behavioral data, they use financial data, they use employment status. They also, some of them also use, you know, what do you call, yeah, behavioral data, that's true. So these companies provide these kind of services. Then we have got accounting and finance. So in accounting and finance, again, it's similar what we have got in India. Like, you know, we have got earlier we have got, like, you know, Tally, which was only working on desktop. Now we have got it on cloud, and we have got many more ERP systems which are now available on cloud, and they integrate very well. And that was also evident in the FinTech Star Summit that we had. So in Vietnam, we have got Staple, which provides an accounting platform for SMEs. Then we have got VatNow, again, another startup, which is providing for filing of taxes. Then we have got Busy, which provides an accounting and financial management platform for SMEs. Then we have got ActNet, which actually provide accounting and financial services, not just accounting and management for software, but actually provide those actual services. So we have these are the different service providers we have got over there. Next, let's go more towards digital identity. So in digital identity, we have got TrueID, Kalapa, Credify, Trandata, Elmesoft. Now, these companies typically use, of course, AI learning, AI, machine learning, data analytics. They are all at the bottom level. They are there. You can't change that almost all. So in fact, this is one common theme which came up during the summit also, that many of the startup companies, they are actually using today data analytics, AI, machine learning together, to provide these kind of services. And we also had in how they are building alternative ways in how to identify a person, not just by regular things, but also by identifying which IPs you are typically coming from, which locations are you, which are the normal apps that you normally use to communicate with them. So here, these startups, they also provide these kind of services like Credify. Credify does that. They use facial recognition. Some of them used even your biometrics, iris, and all. So these companies provide different kind of services, which is almost similar. Then coming back to core banking and infrastructure, this is an interesting thing. In core banking, we have got multiple companies participating who have actually established their startups in Vietnam. So Kuliza, it's an Indian fintech startup, and it provides digital transformation solutions for core banking. Amigo, again, it's a Vietnamese startup. Okay, it provides us core banking solutions for SMEs. And then we have got Bancor Group. Again, Bancor Group is a Danish fintech company. Okay, and they provide core banking and infrastructure-based solutions to financial institutions and all. So a healthy mix happening in core banking. Moving forward, we also have got your SME financing. SME financing is an interesting one. If I were to classify it, I would classify it as, we have got supply chain finance, and we have got also people who are financing the invoices. Okay, so eLoan is a startup, which offers like loan on products, working capitals, equipment financing, trade finance. Okay, these are the kind of services which are offered by in SME financing. Capital Match is one other company. Q is another company which offers this capital loans. LendBiz is another fintech which is offering lending services to SMEs. Kilimo is another Vietnamese startup which is offering these services specifically to agricultural sector. Their platform, they offer a whole load of products for agriculture sector, and they use data analytics to assess the credit worthiness of these borrowers as well. Aspire is actually one of the Singaporean startup that operates in various countries, including Vietnam, and they also provide SMEs with access to financing and other services. Interestingly, we have got also in digital banking system, we have got I would classify that as digital banks and neobanks. So as you all know, digital banks, they operate as full-fledged banks, but online. And neobanks, they are, I would say, boutique kind of banks which offer specific services. So as digital banks, we have got Timo and TP Bank, and neobanks are there like Momo and Bango. By the way, Momo is one of the other Vietnamese unicorn. Okay. So these banks are there. TNEX is there. Ubank is also there. These are all digital banks. Octo is there. It's again a startup which is providing digital banking services, very specific. So these companies exist. Now moving forward, we have got consumer lending. Don't worry, I'll not take much time. So in consumer lending, you have got like home credit, which happens. So Home Credit, it's a global consumer finance company, and it offers loans to individuals. Retail is one part which we find that, kind of, I would say, a mini embedded finance where you actually look for consumer goods and you have this kind of lending happening. So FCOM is a Vietnamese startup. They offer, again, these options in personal loans, home renovation loans, education loans. M Credit does that. Okay. Then we have got PTF is another Vietnamese startup, Toyota Financial Services. They offer, again, it's a subsidiary of Toyota Financial Services. And they offer financing for financing and leasing services for Toyota vehicles itself. Okay, then Viet Credit is there. It's again a big startup. They offer consumer loans again. So these guys are there. I really liked one more thing that's over here. It's crowdfunding system over here. Crowdfunding, they have got multiple areas, I would say, okay, and that they are like, your equity crowdfunding you've got, donation-based crowdfunding you've got, or you've got a reward-based crowdfunding platform. These different kind of platforms are existing. So some of them are like, for equity-based, it's fund start, up raise, and series. What do this do? Like, so they provide kind of rewards to people, like, when you invest in their equity. For donation-based crowdfunding, is actually you are donating, like, over there, and companies like Fundever, Givaga, and Tam Group, they all provide that. Reward-based crowdfunding platform like Crowdfund Vietnam and Start Me Up, they provide reward-based crowdfunding. Basically, they allow individuals to raise funds for projects or business and offer rewards or incentives to people who back them. Okay. Next, we have got comparisons. These platforms, just like how we have got how to compare loans across. So we have got companies like Viet Credit and all that do those kind of comparisons. Then on payments,
if we can move fast.
Yeah. There are very few now. Don't worry. Okay. Don't worry. I know. So being from non-fintech still speaking.
No, that's amazing. Yeah, please.
Yeah. So on payments, we got like, if you were to classify them, e-wallets, mobile payments, remittance services, payment gateways, these guys are there. And this is a large part actually. And this is one area which, if you look at the shares of the startups that you have got, across all the sectors, okay, payment is the highest. So this is one space where there's a maximum, which takes up the maximum shares of the startup. Like, e-wallets are there, like Momo, ZaloPay, VietPay, payment gateways are there, VNPay, OnePay, mobile payments are happening. And then you got this remittance services, which also are important, like TransferWise, World Remit, and these companies. Crypto and blockchain, actually, why people were investing in crypto and blockchain? Because there were no taxes on crypto and blockchain. So people went on investing, and what's also happened, the people lost money. And this is not really legal actually as of date in Vietnam. What my studies have indicated, is not legal, but still this area has developed, like, they've got, besides crypto platforms like Binance, they also got like crypto wallets actually, and in these wallets you make like, you can make send and receive cryptocurrencies. You got crypto payment gateways also. So this kind of ecosystem actually developed, but it's not legal out there, and I don't see a big thing happening unless until the bigger regulations come around. People were investing there because there were no taxes. And interestingly, we also got, blockchain as service platforms are picking up in Vietnam. That's interesting part. Like Cardia Chain and Tomo Chain, they are picking up. Buy now, pay later, another area where people are actually. This is actually an example, I would say, for embedded finance. Like, people you buy now, pay later. So you've got Atom and Akulaku, Repay, Velo, these companies, they provide these kind of services. Personal finance, another area. Okay, so personal finance is where that it allows users to track your incomes and expenses. So this part is there. So these companies are there, like Money Trap, Tizo. These companies, they exist over there for and they provide, like, in one way or the other, financial planning. They are help in credit monitoring. They provide help in options for personal loans as well. So a whole kind of services which are there for an individual. They provide those kind of services. So just to summarize, if you look at this whole picture, you'll see that payment gateway the e-wallets and payment processing they occupy, they are on the top. But where is the scope for development? You'll be surprised to note that, SME financing, okay, that's one area which ranks very low in terms of market share. And the second one, which is ranking a little low on the, is the core banking and infrastructure. That's surprising. But in terms of fintech market share, they are on the lower side. So of course, there's always room for growth and room for improvement. And Vietnam has just started on their journey, and they are already so much. So that's it from my side. Thank you so much. Back to you, Sai.
I think more or less we've done with our part of presentation. So thanks a lot for giving us an opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. I think it was amazing, right? Looking through the 4 different countries, and I think all of 4 groups, I think commendable for to you, all of you, right? The kind of depth you could able to understanding that in the 4 markets, right? So thank you all. Akash, we can just stop the live recording on the YouTube.